So it's gonna be really beneficial, I think, for us to get together and collaborate and kind of see so we can all aim toward the same targets and help each other get there too. Let's go around and introduce each other and we can start down there. Patty?
Me? Okay. Patty Garcia, I'm the town administrator. I've been here for about 4 years in Wellington. And before that, I was in Loveland and Windsor, and then started my career in Winter Park, Colorado, in public administration. So loving being here in Wellington and really excited for this group to get together. It's something we've talked about for probably at least a year, and just really had to plan a time to get everybody together and stick to it, make sure it happens. So start off 2025 right and see where we can go together.
Thanks.
My name's Kate. This is my first year being on the Main Street Wellington board. I've been here about a year and I'm excited just to get to know everybody and get going and see what I can help with.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sophia, I've been in Wellington for about, I think, a little under a decade. Small business owner, and I've been on the board for, this is the end of my first year.
And that's Main Street, right?
Correct.
I'm Melanie. I have lived here 20 years last month. I'm fifth generation native of Fort Collins. I'm a career volunteer and I'm the president of the Wellington Waverly Kiwanis Club.
I'm Emma. This is my first year on the board of the Main Street program, but I was a volunteer last year. And I've lived in Colorado my whole life, but just about 10 minutes south of here. So I went to high school in Fort Collins, and I've just always loved it here and had a lot of friends here growing up. And so I was excited to actually move here and be a part of this. So,
What high school?
Hooter High School. Got it?
Sorry.
I did.
I'm Caitlin Morris. I am the, oh, I'm so sorry, my title just went out of my head. I'm the town events and Main Street coordinator. Been in my position just under 2 years now, and initially came on as a board member the end of 2022. And when the town had released this position, I just thought, boy, I think I might have the background and skill set to be able to contribute something here. So I moved to Wellington in 2015, was in Fort Collins a decade prior to that, and worked for a private family foundation there in community development, specifically with a focus on music programming. And just saw Wellington as, you know, a place with a ton of potential and growth on the horizon. And so I'm excited to be here to talk more about how we can collectively, cohesively work together on the many priorities that we have moving forward, and really increase our capacity to make an impact on our community.
Rebecca Daly, trustee, and I've been serving Wellington for 7 years.
Brian Mason, Mayor Pro Tem, and I do apologize to everybody in advance. I'm going to try to keep my contributions to a minimum tonight. I picked up a pretty bad acid reflux yesterday, and I think I burnt the back of my throat, so I can't talk a lot this evening. So,
Thank you, Brian. Can you expand upon that? Mayor Shosse, yeah, been on the board for 3 years almost in April. Grew up in Wellington, well, been here since 97, so seen it grow quite a bit. But yeah, I'm super excited for tonight and everybody here, and I appreciate all you guys do for the town and the heart you have for us, so thank you all.
Sherelle Teets, trustee. I have been in Wellington, oh my gosh, I was the second house in Buffalo Creek, if that, so 22 years, I want to say. Before that, I grew up participating in the 4th of July parades here. I used to drive the tractor for the Vintage Tractor Association, their little club that they had. So my grandfather was a collector of Moleens and Avery, so I got to do that when I was a little kid and spent most of my childhood at Smokers. We used to call it Smokers. But I've been serving this community. Oh my gosh, I started, I want to say, with the chamber and transitioned over to CAC with their vendor events, and just pretty much have gone since then in volunteering for our community. Yeah, I'm super excited. I I know a lot of faces here, so I'm excited to see what you guys can do with us working with you guys for collaboration and getting the business community more recognized in this area.
Dave Wiegand, I'm the trustee, from Illinois originally, downstate, so nothing good comes out of Chicago. Well, maybe. Well, that's what downstaters say. Moved out here in Fort Collins in 1992, and I moved up here in 96. So been here 8 years, almost 9 years right now. And been a trustee, it'll be 3 years in April. We're looking forward to this. It's great having collaboration between everybody. We got to figure out how we can grow this community and do the businesses and stuff. And I think this is a fantastic way to approach it. Thank you.
I'm Jane Kincaid, and this is my first year in the Main Street program as a member. I volunteered last year. And I live right outside basically of Wellington, but school district Wellington, everything Wellington for going on my 28th year. So my kids did all the fun stuff growing up, and now I'm excited to help create it for other families.
And you're from Illinois originally?
I'm from Illinois, right outside of Chicago.
Okay.
I was born in Chicago. Oh, yeah. Not here since like 94.
I got out of.
No, 93, 93.
When you're.
So I have a question. Do you eat the pizza with the sauce on top or sauce on bottom? Are you a Chicago style pizza fan or?
One of my favorite pizzas is the one with the sauce on top. Lots of thickness.
Nice.
No,
Too messy for me.
it is messy. Knife and fork.
Yeah, there you go.
Designed for. My name is Carol Bennis, and I've been serving as the interim executive director for the Wellington Chamber of Commerce since July 1st. I moved to Wellington in 2019, and I moved to Colorado 18 years ago this month. And I came here from Cleveland, Ohio. So, because they're always sports team people, and Detroit. So, yeah, it's been an interesting transition. I have a small consulting firm who specializes in working with nonprofits. When they have a transition and lose their executive director, I step in and do an audit and create an operations manual so anybody can come in and run the organization. They can do it step by step, like at a moment's notice, which is kind of cool. Before coming to Colorado, I worked for the Greater Cleveland Partnership, which is the largest chamber of commerce in the country. They have 18,000 members, so, you know, it's a goal. I did special projects for them and also launched their access to capital network for business startups.
I'm Lisa Christopherson. I am a Dakotan, Wyoming girl that found herself in Texas for a brief short stint because my dad was oil, but I love here. We moved here 28 years ago. I too was 10 minutes down the road from Wellington until it would have been 2018 that I purchased a business up here and started working in Wellington. Started on the chamber. This is my second term, 4th year, I guess, on the chamber board. Really excited to be a part of the growth of Wellington. I love all things business. I own the Wellington Manor and Beauty Renewed, and very much want to see our economic development just keep going and going. I also lead volunteers. I'm very much involved still in Fort Collins, but also up here as well. And fun fact, I knew Kaler when he was a young lad.
Young lad.
Young like Taylor.
My name is Tanner Brown. I'm on the chamber board. I'm little over 1.5 years into being on that board. I'm the State Farm agent here in town. I've been here since late 2019. Yeah, I'm just excited to see this happen and be involved and yeah, watch it grow from kind of a different perspective of somebody who hasn't been here their whole life, so.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hodling, Deputy Town Administrator. I've been in Wellington for about 6.5 years, in local government for over 14 years. So I'm excited to see us take kind of the next leap in local government here and growing economic development. And this partnership is really important for all of us. So thank you.
I'm Hannah Hill, I'm the town clerk. I've been in Wellington for a couple of months. So definitely a newbie, but I'm excited to see what you all are doing and learn the community.
Right. Do we have anybody attending online?
You do have one individual online.
Oh, and Mr. Dan Sapienza.
Hi, I'm Dan Sapienza, I'm the town attorney, working on high school Lincoln, CSU Ram. Special place in my heart for small businesses, that's most of my other clients, and before I went to law school, I ran a sewing and vacuum store for a number of years, so I know about retail, brick and mortar shops, and I love business, so excited to be here, but I get to be back here just watching today.
And then, do we need an introduction for the online?
Yeah, Blair, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Just a little bit if you speak up pretty loud.
Okay, I might have to change, hold on. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Blair Silver. I am a Wellington native. I was born and raised in Wellington in the Main Street District. I've worked for a lot of businesses here. I've been on the Main Street Board for 3 years, and I am the new board president as of last month. So I'm kind of figuring it out as I go, but I'm really excited for this partnership to work more closely with the town and get more involved with the chamber so that we can make Wellington as good as I know that it can be.
Yeah, so that being said, I kind of already said the purpose of our meeting beforehand, but it's for us to work together to see what we can do to help just better Wellington and get it to progress even further with the businesses and just make it feel good. Where we can get more excitement out of the town, more revenue back into the town, give people options, be able to make it to where people can also work here and live here, and that's, you know, ultimately the goal in the end game for this whole deal. So we have presentations. I'd like to keep these to 10-ish minutes. I think the bigger portion of the night will be our discussion towards the end where we're talking about collaboration ideas, things of that nature. So the first presentation I'd like would be Main Street. So we have somebody presenting.
I'm gonna present on behalf of us tonight since Blair's joining remotely. So I think I passed out one of our strategic plans to all of you. I know some of you have seen this several times now, but you know, the more we look at it, the more we memorize it and the more it becomes part of our lingo. So I am not going to cover our strategic plan in detail. I really just wanted you to have it so you can look at sort of the nitty-gritty activities that will roll up into those 3 strategies, which are Wellington support, Keep Cleveland Happening, all about the Cleveland construction project, and Shoulder to Shoulder, which is really focused on our partnerships and collaborations. So tonight is very relevant to working towards that strategy. But I did want to call some things to the surface of kind of the bigger picture goals that we have as a program in each of those strategy areas. To start out with, organizationally speaking, some of our higher level goals this year are really focused on board training and development. So as most of you know, we just went through pretty significant board transition, and over the life of the program, really every year or two, this has continued to kind of be an issue for the board, this sort of level of turnover and the knowledge transfer there. So we really want to focus on the training and development of our new board members, building in some succession planning so we can get ahead of, you know, we don't want to have 7 positions change over every year. We'd like that to be 1 or 2 positions, and work people into roles where they can sort of shadow and learn from people who have been on the board for a while or in those, you know, officer positions. So that's really important to us to work into our bylaws and how we recruit for the board moving forward. We have been working towards completing our policies and procedures manual for, the past, couple of years now. Just looking at you because I think we all know that is such a part of our success is not having to question what's the process for this, what's the policy on this. And as people come and go, that can serve as a living document that will, live on foreseeably for the future of the program. Additionally, we are working on diversifying our fundraising efforts and bringing in different revenue streams. The program's been pretty reliant on sponsorships the past couple years, and we've just, fallen shy of our fundraising goals. So we really want to work on, bringing in individual donations, grant dollars, earned and in-kind revenue, different ways that we can kind of offset the costs associated with the work that we want to do. In terms of the Cleveland Avenue construction project, I feel like we all probably have this as a goal. Our goal is to collaborate and connect with the town and the chamber in how we can support businesses and residents through the construction. And, try and mitigate the impacts of that project as much as we can by being creative and coming up with different projects and ideas to support our businesses and encourage the community to still come out during construction. Another big focus for us this year is our mini grant projects. So as a Main Street program of this state of Colorado, we've received $10,000 a year from the Department of Local Affairs, being an exceptional level program. And the program's actually saved those funds for the past 4 years or so now. So we've got $40,000 to spend and we're excited about it. We just got it approved recently at the end of 2024. And so 25,000 of that will be focused on a Shop Local marketing campaign. So we recently engaged a local firm who will, come in and take pictures of the inside and outside of our local businesses, interview our business owners, produce promotional materials, social media content, verbiage and slogans that we can use during construction and in the future. So we're very excited to embark on that project. And it just so happens that at the same time, DOLA awarded every Main Street community in the state of Colorado a community video. And they're working with the same consultant that we chose for the Shop Local marketing campaign, which just dovetails beautifully.
Yeah.
And so they will come in and simultaneously capture video content. They'll interview several local business owners as part of that. They'll capture B-roll footage that we'll also receive and be able to plug and play for different purposes as well. And so ultimately we'll get a 3-minute promotional community video from them as part of that. We also have $10,000 devoted to a mural or more. We're not sure yet. We're still working through the budget on that. We know we want to do at least one mural. And then some new district signage that would be placed at the east and west ends of Cleveland Avenue and possibly along the frontage road near Ridley's, depending on how far our budget goes. Moving on into economic vitality. So we have been wanting to venture more into economic development and economic vitality as a program for a few years now. It's one of the pillars of the Main Street 4-point approach. And we haven't really had any intentional work going on there, though arguably everything we do benefits our economy in some way. It's infused in all of the work that we do, but we want to be really intentional about what that means for us as the Main Street program and how we can leverage some of the resources that are available to us through Main Street America and DOLA, and obviously work together with all of you to define kind of what our role can be moving forward as we all embark in economic development activities. As sort of a sub tab of that, I guess, or a sub goal, we really want to focus on enhancing the attractiveness overall of our Main Street district, not just with the look and feel. The Cleveland Avenue construction project is going to make it beautiful and amazing, but how can we really take control over our building inventory and start promoting our vacant properties, our vacant buildings, and, trying to align those spaces with potential prospective businesses that want to come into town. We actually recently just got an incredible gift from DOLA again. They worked with Ayers and Associates to produce what they're calling our Main Street Toolkit, or it's a dashboard of an inventory of our downtown properties and buildings. How much square footage it is, average price, who the owners are. I mean, the details go on. And this was something that we were going to be embarking on this year. And they basically just put a check mark next to that box for us and gave us a beautiful gift to be able to use for this goal. In addition to that, we've talked about exploring the feasibility of a quasi-governmental entity of sorts. So a lot of people have expressed interest in a downtown development authority or a business investment district, urban renewal authority. There's 5 or 6 sort of quasi-governmental entities that we could explore to potentially bring into our community to help increase our economic development efforts. And then lastly, under this one, we want to develop a business loyalty strategy or a shop local punch card, passport. Don't know what that looks like or what we call it, but in tandem with that shop local marketing campaign to really just encourage our residents and visitors to support local when they come here. Lastly, on the special events side of things, we know we're going to have to maybe simplify, revamp, re-envision, be flexible as a palm tree through construction with the events that we do, just not knowing how construction will impact events late July 2024 through the end of 2026. So we are just going to have an eye for what we can do to be creative and work around any obstacles that might exist there. And then I did want to call out the Main Street Market because that is our biggest event and one of our bigger fundraisers as well. And so we want to evolve the market, looking at the day of the week that we do, the time that we do it, collaborating with other local markets that exist in our Main Street area, supporting our vendors and our small in-home occupations to have opportunities through those markets. This aligns with kind of our Wellington's front porch strategy. I think if you've ever been to one of the Main Street markets, it's just this great experience of Wellington in general. And it's an incubator for our small businesses to have a safe opportunity to engage with the community and grow and hopefully, grow into the level of being able to have a brick and mortar location in our community. So that's what I have for you all today without rambling on too much more.
Awesome, thank you. Chamber.
Our strategic planning process is going to begin in April. So I don't have a formal outline of our strategic plan for the next 5 years, but we do have a number of initiatives underway, really focused on being obsessive about member benefits. What am I getting from this relationship? What are the opportunities? And so we've been focused on growing those benefits and taking a look at the portfolio of opportunities for our members. But in doing so, we've also looked outward to take into consideration who are the home-based businesses who are not really breaking through the surface right now, and who are those people sitting at home with a brilliant business idea they'd love to launch. So as a result of some of that discovery work, we do have a couple of economic development initiatives on the drawing board right now. For example, we have a business startup support track of education we've been incubating and working with SBDC, the Better Business Bureau. I'm in touch with the woman who runs minority certification for businesses out of the state of Colorado. So we can teach people locally why you want to be a woman-owned business, why you want to be a veteran-owned business, why you'd like to be a minority-owned business. What are the opportunities that present themselves when you go to the trouble of being certified? We have in our plans, our early first, second quarter plans, opportunities to bring together some of our smaller members who have home-based businesses who don't have a location to cut the ribbon for. Can't invite you to their kitchen for a business after hours. But what we're doing is we're hoping to aggregate all of those home-based businesses and have one giant ribbon cutting business after hours, almost like a vendor fair, to really have them bring some of their wares to this gathering so people can meet them. Part of the attraction of doing a ribbon cutting and a business after hours is giving people that muscle memory about being in the physical space of that business, whether it's new or new to the chamber. We want people to be able to walk away saying, I can tell everybody I meet exactly what they do and how they do it. And that's really important. So that's why we've really been pushing hard to get that activity. This is our 20th anniversary year.
Wow.
I know. Thank you to the people who had that vision, and we're going to be celebrating those people this year. But as a result, we've been really focused on the business after hours opportunities, and trying to pre-schedule as many of those as possible through the end of the year. This Thursday, we have our first one of 2025. It's being hosted by Points West Community Bank. They're bringing in one of our newest members, Maine. It's spelled Mainn. Maine has developed this fascinating community marketing platform. And right now, the Windsor Chamber and the Wellington Chamber are the only two organizations who've jumped in to say, let's try to make this go. It's a fascinating tool, and you can see it actually on our homepage. If you go to it, there's a little weird video circle at the bottom of our homepage. That's an interactive page, and what it does is it connects everybody who has that widget in your community together. And it's designed to just absolutely propel search engine optimization for your website. And let me tell you, since the chamber added it, Mary had it, she added it in May. And I wish I'd had some of the pre-widget data to share as a comparison. But when we first checked the traffic, we were having about 2,500 unique visitors to the chamber website. Now, we're a chamber of just under 200 companies in a town with 12,000 residents. So it's kind of exciting. We did have a month where we had 7,000 unique hits, and it's just because we're all kind of connecting. And it's really kind of exciting. So we're going to have a demo on Thursday at Points West Bank at 5 o'clock. We'd love to have you there to hear this demo. It's eye-opening, and we're really excited to be on the second launch of this particular tool. It's a very cost-effective tool. We're pretty excited to bring that to the table. But we also have, in addition to the business startup support, because we think that teasing out those businesses who reside in somebody's head or at somebody's kitchen table is really important to provide those connections and the startup support. And then connect them with all of the resources locally, countywide, statewide, to introduce them to all of the people who are ready to help you do what you need to do. So we're pretty excited about that. We've been having some conversation the last 2 months with the high school about some activity with students. And we have some really exciting opportunities. We're hoping to be able to launch a scholarship fund for a graduating senior. And one of the things that we've been kicking around with our membership committee right now is the opportunity to grant that scholarship to not just somebody who might be going to college to study business, but to take a good hard look at those students who might be joining the family ranching business or farming business, and provide them with some resources to take some of the business classes that family business might then benefit from. So it's a very broad view of a definition of scholarship, which we're kind of excited about. We're getting some pretty good feedback about how we go forward with that. We also have some business class support being lined up. I had the privilege of judging some business pitches with Tanner in December, which was my first experience with the high school, which was so eye-opening. I've reached out to the principal to encourage him to schedule a business after hours to get as many people into the high school as we physically, and especially business owners in the community, so they can be in awe of this crown jewel we have in our community. It's amazing. And so, since the business pitch judging in December, I've been talking to 4 of the business class, faculty members. We're looking at, providing them with speakers to various classes. So we'll be reaching out to our membership to present, to do presentations to business classes, doing more participation and things that they'd like to have happen. We want to plug them into some of our meetings and our education programs and things like that. Right now, I'm trying to get them 50 passes to Founded in FOCO so they can do field trips to go take a bunch of classes that are free, but they'll take up a bunch of seats. So I've got to secure it in advance. But we have a lot of opportunities to really formalize that working relationship as a workforce development initiative. We're going to hopefully be helping with their spring job fair and shaking our membership roster to see who has summer jobs available for high school students and how we go forward with that. Our business education is continuing into 2025. We have the end of the month Wednesday presentation at 6 o'clock. That's going to solely focus on personal growth and development topics. We do a breakfast networking meeting at 7:30, the first Tuesday of every month. And we're presenting topics that focus on your business and things you need to know about your business. So last week, we talked about how to maximize your membership and not leave a penny on the table. So when the year ends, you look and say, we squeezed every cent of benefit out of that. Next month, we're going to have a benefits expert come to talk to us about the variety of health care products available to businesses of every size. If you can't provide a standard health insurance package to your employees, what can you provide? And so we're going to be talking about things like the telehealth options and direct primary care contracting and a whole bunch of other things that a lot of businesses really don't know about, and how they're cost effective for people who even have like 1 or 2 employees. So we want to do that. We have a variety of other topics coming up: maximizing LinkedIn, using AI in your business. We're doing a cybersecurity presentation from a community bank to talk about all the scams and all of the things that people have been doing that banks have been detecting to prepare yourself. So we're focused on topics of business interest to help fortify and strengthen your business here in Wellington. Beyond that, I mentioned some of the workshops that we're hoping to do, how to start a business, how to, become certified, all those things. So we have a pretty interesting calendar of activity coming on. We also have some assets that our board is reviewing right now to see what we can leverage for the community. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some pretty exciting things to share with you. So yeah, in addition to the membership opportunities, we've also been working on issues of visibility. Visibility for the Chamber of Commerce, visibility for all of our members, visibility for the town and for Main Street. We're trying to keep all the topics of interest, all the programs that are happening, top of mind and in the path of everybody who's on social media. So we've been working super hard, and we've tried a couple of experiments in the last 2 quarters, and we've had some super fun results. We did a shoestring gift buying guide, but when all was said and done, that gift buying guide had 92,000 views in the 2 months we did it, and we did it with. I spent $98 to boost it to specific handpicked zip codes, but beyond that, it was $0 to try it out. So we have other gift guides that we're hoping to launch, and what was really exciting about that is that it gave our social media, at least Facebook, a significant lift. And since the 1st of January, we've been vacillating between numbers. If you look at your rolling 28-day snapshot, how you're performing, since the 1st of January, we've been hitting between 95 and 115,000 views on a rolling 28-day calendar. So we're kind of cracking some codes, and we're getting into certain community forums, and you know, people are reaching out to us, and we're talking to people, and we're sharing things with people, and so that's kind of neat. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that we have a gift card in Wellington, Shop Wellington. And during the months of November and December, because we promoted buy a gift card if you don't know what to get people when you go into all of these wonderful shops and restaurants and things like that. Buy a gift card and let the recipient figure out what they want to do that. We sold more gift cards in November and December than we did the 3.5 years we've had the program in place combined. So yeah, and it's really kind of fun because we get to work with all of the businesses and try to figure out, hey, what else do you have? What's going on? And work with Main Street and work with the town to figure out, yeah, how do we grow this? You know, what are the levers? What are the hot buttons we need to do? So we're learning a lot, and really excited for this year because we have some fun things on the drawing board that we're chomping at the bit to announce. So just so excited to announce. So can't tell you anything more than that. But, that's really good.
Thank you. Kind of Wellington goals. So obviously the wastewater treatment plant and water treatment plant are done. So we are open for bringing in businesses and things of that nature. So that's going to be one of our main goals. I think the board as a whole has been discussing this for a while. And we allowed in our budget this year to have economic development as part of that. Position for, business development and retention, so we can kind of help the planning department that way. So I think that's going to be something that the town can really help to start to develop something to attract people in, and give options and things there from the town's perspective. The Cleveland Avenue, that project will start the end of this year, go into probably the beginning of 2026. And then that obviously will beautify Main Streets and make it much more desirable for businesses to want to come to our main streets and for people who want to come walk the downtown area. Obviously, we know that not every business is downtown, so that's why we had in the budget for doing development with a role outside of that, so we can touch the broader area as well. Kind of heard some overlap in areas of that nature, I think, between all of us, which is really good there. We have affordable housing is a huge thing for us. So we got Matrix Designs did a housing study for us, and that'll be coming before us here shortly.
It's at planning commission right now.
But so it's going to show us what the needs are for our community as a whole when it comes to level of housing, entry level, how you can move up in homes, things of that nature, and so what those needs are really going to be. That's going to help us really understand what we need to do growth wise to better facilitate what this town actually needs, and also possibly develop new codes and things of that nature to help us make those things reality. We have a bid out for Parks and Recreation, Open Space and Trails, also known as PROST Master Plan and Community Center Feasibility Study. So this is going to require extensive outreach to the public to find out the needs of our residents. So there will be things coming out along those lines, surveys, just collecting everything we possibly can to make sure that we're coming up with a plan that's going to work for the residents there. They will also include potential sites, financial stuff, all of those good things there. And then currently we are working on a water source development plan. That is going to give us feasible, actionable ways in which we can move forward to hopefully secure a secondary source of water in the near future. So that way we can make sure that that's something that's sustainable in this town and hopefully can lower prices down the road. It is a a task amongst itself, so don't get too far ahead of yourselves. We're starting it. We're not, so, that's been really cool to be a part of. Myself and Mayor Pro Tem have been on that. And then, I already mentioned the economic development. Was there anything I missed?
Not as far as larger projects. I mean, there's always the day-to-day and the, you know, the events that we worked on and things like that, but those are the larger projects that would affect the community as a whole.
Can you tell them what we're gonna be doing for the economic development? Positions, whatever else.
Sure,
money we-
so we had a vacancy in our planning department due to an employee moving to our finance department, which was really great for us. It just turned out well that there was a vacancy this year, and we'll be looking to hire someone. We haven't determined the exact title, potentially business development specialist. There's a couple different things that we're looking at, because I want to make sure that the position itself fulfills the needs of the community. And really, we need somebody who can bring economic development to Wellington and start off on the ground level, working with the chamber, working with Main Street, seeing what's already being done and how can we build on that. We don't need to do what somebody's already doing. You know, that's crazy. That's, you know, just a waste of time. But the goal is to find a way that we can work with all of the entities. We need to think about more rooftops. When there's more rooftops, there's more business. What do those businesses want for their employees? Do they want more parks? Do they need amenities for their employees to live here and stay here? You know, there's different pieces related to economic development that we need to look at as a whole, and with all of you as well. I think looking at this community center feasibility study this year will help us see what the feasibility is of the community center. Many of the economic development sessions that I've attended over the last couple of years talk about making sure that you have a community where your business owners will be happy to bring their employees to. Your employees are going to want to live in that community. And one of those things that they are always looking for are what are those outside events and activities that the community can provide. So there's a lot of moving pieces with that economic development piece, where hopefully we'll start putting that out. I don't know the exact date. I know that we're just working on our IT manager. There's a couple other positions that we needed to get together right away. But hopefully Q1, we'll get that posted and start getting that work done. So really excited for that. And that's something that I want to see grow with this group.
I think one of the biggest things I would say is, you kind of touched on it a little, but it's the affordable housing. So I think that's one of the things that might benefit some of the business owners here the most, is seeing those results from affordable housing on. So if you're looking for wait staff, you're not looking for $400,000 and $500,000 homes, you're looking for affordable condos, multiplexes, items like that, that they can support themselves but still feel like they're able to live where they work. I think that's gonna be a huge one that Main Streets and the Chamber will be able to genuinely build off of, and saying, here, we know we need this many housing units to house a generalized larger manufacturing company coming in, and they're bringing in 50 to 60 employees. They need somewhere to live. And right now, I mean, even if you go to Greeley and Fort Collins, you're not finding affordable housing. So, and while manufacturing jobs are great, they are not going to pay the mortgage and the water bill on a $500,000, $600,000 home. So I think I want to say that's something I'm actually looking forward to the most, is understanding how that touches the different entities in town, because the people won't come here for these wait staff jobs, for the lower end jobs, if they don't have affordability. They're not going to drive back and forth from Fort Collins because they can't afford the gas money. So I think that's the biggest reality when you touch on some of those things. That I think the biggest one that will be of benefit in understanding is how we accomplish affordable housing for community members to transition this way.
We do have the housing affordability strategy adoption scheduled for the March 11th Board of Trustee meeting. So that'll be the first time the board sees it. We may extend that discussion out a couple weeks, depending on, you know, the different ideas and thoughts that are brought forward, but a lot of work has been put into this already. The planning commission has been reviewing it, and for those of you who might be interested, the initial draft is in a planning commission packet from December, I believe. But it is just a draft. It's, you know, not a complete package yet. But it talks about the economics of Wellington and the various demographics, the aging in place that's happening here in Wellington, that was much more than what I realized in looking at the demographics and things. So, you know, there's a lot of areas that we need to work on as far as a town, and making sure that we have the housing available for residents who do want to stay here and be here and make this their home.
Well, and knowing those connections of, if anyone does have connections of developers that built and smaller affordable housing, I mean, I think Main Streets and the Chamber would be a huge resource to have people that are the connections and contacts for people that are willing to work with developers to come in and build on smaller chunks of land, and how that might work in partnership with some of our developers, and looking at the feasibility and affordability of lowering those lot price costs. And yeah, I think that's.
Do we have anyone that we know that is like going to build an apartment building with like, say, like 50 apartments? I mean, like a tall building.
Yeah, that's in this new, so in the is it phase one of the new Sage development that they're doing, phase one will have apartment complex condos going in, right off of Highway 1.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So.
And we did, another developer is gonna be developing here at Bachelor Homes.
Bachelor Homes is good.
Their model is a smaller home currently with no basement. So it's more of an entry level,
Smaller yard.
yeah, and so that's another exciting thing
It's
too.
really, yeah, we'll be seeing some multifamily here,
Yeah.
hopefully pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Cause even I know as like a first time home buyer very recently, looking for homes, you know, it was atrocious, obviously.
Yeah.
Depressing.
And yeah, wanting to live here was really difficult. But I realized in looking at all the listings, there's like no just apartments. And it's like, oh, it's all like one level, like a split home that's like apartments, but like, I know from coming from a city and being like, oh, you know, you can fit 50 families in this one block of land. And it is like, you know, a really great sense of community in that apartment block, you know, that was really wonderful. There's just nothing like that here. And so I definitely responded to that survey. And was
Thank
like,
you.
"More apartments."
Thank you. That's what we needed. We need those of you who responded. Thank you so much.
Well, and those layers that you're talking about, from seeing the first ideas and concepts come from that phase one of the Sage development, it looks like kind of what you are describing, where there'll be multiple complexes. So,
Yeah, should be very cool.
yes.
The big push in the Main Street world is second floor housing for sure. And, you know, through our DOLA team at the state, Larry is a historic preservation architect. So he can work with our, you know, potentially our historic buildings on where there's opportunities to add second floor spaces for housing. And in some of those vacant, you know, parcels that we have, as we have development projects come, starting to really think about encouraging those developers to add housing as part of those projects. The toolkit that I mentioned that Ayers and Associates gave us was really focused on engaging with developers and encouraging them, or, you know, creating that relationship with them as they come into your community. And so part of the toolkit there's budget pro formas, there's you know, different just plug and play templates that we could use to start getting a little more intentional about attracting prospective developers and working on, you know, properties that would tick some of those boxes for us. So I'd love to share that information when the time is right.
I'm a lonely second floor Main Street person.
are
I'm
lucky.
the only one on the two.
Alcan has.
Oh, all Canyon does, that's right. Okay, so us two, it's just us.
Yeah.
I had a question related to that. When you were talking about parking and downtown and apartments and whatnot, has any Main Streets or the chamber reached out to some of the vacant lot owners? The gas station, we talk about construction on Cleveland and losing that parking. Has there been any discussion start going on with being able to rent out, lease out temporarily? Like some of the empty lots that you see sitting around where there would be a secondary series of parking, where it could be like signage that specifically states this is available for Main Street parking. Cause that's gonna be your number one complaint, is what I hear, is we don't know where to park, or you're gonna get the residents that live along those roads saying we can no longer park in our home. So that's what I was curious, is if anybody's actually reached out and started having conversations about, I know the town owns the land across from Rice. I don't know if that's not Rice, but Istone. If that's something where least like land can be sectioned out for additional parking for Main Street. I know that the gas station just going in down at the end of Cleveland, they have that huge empty lot over there. If that could be something where, you know, maybe even if it's not asking for free parking, but something that labels where you can put the temporary chains up and say Main Street parking, because we agreed to a contract to lease this for an extended period of time. It's just a generalized idea to help businesses on Cleveland during that transition, but I was just curious if anyone had started having those conversations.
No formal conversations yet. We've explored some of the same ideas. And it was brought up actually just last week in our kickoff meeting for the C3 committee, the Cleveland Construction. Yeah, you know, seeing parking as a huge deterrent or barrier for people to still be coming to downtown. So absolutely want to prioritize that as one of the ways that we can support while Main Street is closed down. To Carol, I don't want to speak your idea, I'll punt it over to you on side street parking, but
Yeah, we only, but our big aha was, what if we lined parking spaces on every one block north, one block south of Cleveland to train people how to park?
So they're
Because,
not taking up,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I will admit to get.
we all do.
I know, I've only been to giving a woman the stink eye until she came back to her car and moved her car up. I'm like, really? Really? You're only gonna let your cars park here instead of 5? You know, so, but no, we have not had those formal conversations, but I did reach out to the owners of the Best Med building, which has substantial parking.
Yes.
They might be open to making that parking available because that building's likely to sit vacant for 6 years, so. Yeah, isn't that awesome? So, yeah, I was trying to, pitch a building donation for a nonprofit in town, so. And they're under contract with, the owners of the building are under contract with Best Med, and they don't care, they'll let it sit vacant.
They will just let it sit.
Yeah, but they might let us if we, for example, if we were to make arrangements for the maintenance of the parking and the outside, whatever landscaping, they might be willing to let us use that for free, and I can go back and ask to make that happen. So that's substantial. But we haven't formally, sat there saying, okay, we might have 5 extra spaces or 5, you know, whatever to do those things. But
Is
yeah.
that anything as far as us go, as far as the town trustees? Do we know or have connections to assist in starting those communications?
No, I think, you know, I know we have the C3 group is working together, so that's members of Main Street, Chamber and the town, includes staff, it's staff from the town is who it is. And Christy Cannon is the one that's facilitating the discussions and helping us kind of problem solve and come up with ideas and brainstorm things. We just had our first meeting last week. We had Bob there who gave a great overview of the project, spent a lot of time answering a lot of questions about drainage and all those types of things. I brought forward information about what different municipalities and entities are doing to help businesses during construction periods, what business could be doing or should be doing in preparation for those construction periods. And then we're gonna come back again. I don't remember when our next meeting is. Do you remember, Caitlin?
The
Third
Thursday
Third Thursday. Yes, the third Thursday.
of
So,
every month.
we definitely, Carol had brought up the idea about the parking and things like that. I forwarded that to Bob, and Bob's like, that's exactly what we should be doing. So, you know, we're taking questions and comments from various people and trying to integrate it into our plans moving forward. So, but if anybody has ideas, please forward them along, our connections.
And by that next meeting, our goal, I have my side of the street, Linda Knack is taking the other side of the street, and we're gonna go to each business owner and say, do you have extra parking? Do you have backdoor access?
Mhm.
If you don't, what do you need? So that ideally in that next plan, we can say, okay.
Right.
You know, for example, my building, I have back lot parking. I'm gonna be perfectly fine. Some are not. Some, you know, we think, the Mexican restaurant doesn't have a back door. It's their kitchen. So it's like, okay, what do you guys need? And so ideally by that next meeting, I have my side of the street, she has her side of the street, and kind of say, okay, here's our businesses that we need to look after, that are only have that front door access. What can we do for them? And then kind of planning the parking around that.
Cool. We're trying to get on top of it before.
Good committee.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
It is a great group.
Yeah.
May I ask how many permit applications for new residential construction are on the drawing board right now, but haven't been approved because of the lack of access to water?
Oh,
Is there-
None.
we were never in a moratorium.
They weren't building
Yeah.
at the time,
Got
so
it,
there was,
okay.
it wasn't, they were still keeping up with demand. It wasn't the 500 applied for like 500 building permits. It just wasn't,
It just wasn't.
there wasn't a lot of applications for building
Got it.
permits
Yeah.
in general. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah,
How many new residential units are we looking at that's been approved so far? If we were to look at total for.
that's in our packet. I don't know if
Oh,
you've seen
okay.
it. There's
I
a
will-
huge report
I will
Yes,
pull
in
that.
our last packet.
Yep. the
Yeah.
last
And it
packet.
goes through, I mean, and it projects out like 3 or 5 years.
Okay.
And exactly how much they're expecting. Now get this changes. So the economy changes, building materials go up. You're gonna see, so that I think that's an honest best guess. If everything stays remotely the same,
Yeah.
that's the best guess
Okay.
for what that projection is.
Okay.
That's not to say that we're not gonna see some stuff go back down eventually and building will just take off in general,
Okay,
which would not be a bad thing for the Wellington community right now.
yeah.
as long as we do it smart.
Yeah, so,
And I ask that because there are really well documented studies on as your residential population grows, what kind of retails and services do you need to have in
Mhm.
place to support the
Right.
community?
Right.
So there's
Mhm.
lots of.
Yep.
that's what Patty was discussing when she calls it rooftops.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, yeah,
that's the
balancing
lingo
the
we're used
rooftops,
to in
yeah,
the discussion
yeah.
is rooftops.
Excellent. So,
Yeah.
you know, and so that would surely be of interest to our existing business community and especially people with connections and ideas
Right.
and, you know, so.
That's how we all need to work together with
know,
all of this. So it's super
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
And yes, it's in the,
Yeah,
This, I think it's this last, the last.
Page 47 in the last packet.
July 14th, I mean,
Okay.
January 14th.
January 14th.
And
January
that
14th packet.
some pretty amazing information.
Excellent.
I think the only thing I think that we are lacking in that is what's actually available now. So if you have someone who comes into you and says, I'm looking for this kind of location, I think that's something that is
That's
missing
where-
from,
That's where Main Street comes in.
yeah, well, and not, cause well, Main Street doesn't handle all of town though. So
No, but I
we,
think
that's
the
what,
NOCO Ready group is where we usually get those prospective business inquiries.
Yeah.
And so, you know, maybe like working with them to really
Mhm.
convey, here's what we have available, here's what we're looking for, so that they can also start to have an eye when they're screening
Yeah.
those. Cause some of them come through and I'm immediately like, this is a no, because it's a giant corporation. It needs a huge space and
Yeah.
water and electricity and all those things, but yeah, I think that NOCO Ready could be a really great resource for
Yes.
making those
We-
connections too.
We are connected.
Great. So, aligning our goals and the things that, you guys have planned for this year and what you guys have and what we had. What are gonna be, is there anything that stood out to anybody, areas of alignment where we can collaborate? I mean, obviously, the Cleveland project can be huge, and we talked about the parking. What are the other, yes,
Sorry to interrupt you.
sorry.
So I just remembered seeing this a couple months ago. It was published October 15th, 2024. On the Main Street America website, which is obviously where Main Street Wellington. So, the national website, they have a article with lots of, links for help and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, it says, how to survive and thrive during construction. So it has like, a huge article that talks about, how we can start getting organized prior to construction, how to help, and specifically lines it out in ways that have been proven to help small businesses through construction. I think using this organization, obviously we're part of it, but I think taking knowledge from something that's already been proven to work is definitely something that we should also focus on. Is like, I love the creativity. I have a bazillion ideas, all the time, but I definitely think that to like actually make a difference during this like really scary time for a lot of small businesses that are like, are we gonna even make it through this? Is anybody gonna come see us? But yeah, it has, getting feedback from businesses, involvement in bid processes for, alleyway management, which we've talked a lot about, event planning coordination, outdoor seating and accessibility. And, one of the things it talks about a lot is having a Main Street as like a business liaison to the businesses. Like kind of assign a person that is like, so people aren't just reaching out to us or to you guys, and then like our wires get crossed and who's talking to who and
Who's
like,
the point person?
yeah, it's like
Who's the-
assigning somebody, like,
Yeah,
this
it would
is
be
you,
amazing.
do this thing, only you. And everybody else would be like, oh, you need to talk to this person instead of, you can obviously still listen to them, but like somebody should be appointed. a
That would be
contact.
amazing.
Yeah.
So when residents do reach out, we're like, or you see a post, you can be like, and tag this person and
Yes.
I'm done. So
Right.
therefore, it just directly hits one single
Right.
human and not.
Mhm.
And is that what we're saying? Let me understand this, because I know we've got the 3C committee. And they're
Right.
gonna be doing a lot of this.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're gonna report to what we're trying to develop here, is that what we're saying? And are we gonna have, are we saying that your team, our team will all work together and have one person doing one goal for each? I mean, cause obviously the chamber's a little different. We're
Right.
not Main Street.
Right.
We're Main
yeah.
Street and all, the
Yes.
town,
Yeah.
but there might be a role that
We
the
do
chamber
work
would
with
be.
a lot of.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I have this. So this group is going to meet on a regular basis or on a, however often, a representative, or all of us like we are right now, or a couple of us, I don't know. But then each of us could have one role that services all of us.
Yes,
Yes.
one person.
Okay, that's what I want to
All
make
of
sure.
us,
Yeah,
Because that one person will need to know a lot,
yeah,
but then they will have to have, the contact information for the construction companies and the town administrators, and they'll need to be doing a lot of liaising.
What is the
Probably
fees-
not
I'm like,
what is
wait,
the
we don't
feasibility?
have the person for this.
I actually attended this session at one of the Main Street Now conferences and I got all the juicy materials from it. So
Yes,
we
girl.
can absolutely rip off and duplicate a lot of this. They created a really fun promotional campaign around it, had a person like dressed up as a construction cone who went out on the street and, tried to make it as fun as they could. But typically what I've learned is I think typically the program manager for the Main Street program does often serve as that liaison. So I think, you know, a point of clarification with the
Yeah.
group and in terms of capacity and
That makes
ability.
sense.
to do
Bandwidth,
that.
sure.
Yeah.
But then we have other things like, let's say, not project, but like events. For me, I want to talk. I would love for us to all know each other's events and
Mhm.
moving forward so that, I mean, I had Twyla from the Well call me the other day and say, hey, Lisa, are you guys doing an event on this day? Because I won't do one if you are. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a first.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, let's do that. Let's like
Yeah.
work together like that. So like events would be on the, I would love to see on this meeting that we, you know, work the calendar together
Yeah.
really well.
And both of your groups do community calendars, do they not? Correct?
In some capacity, I think we're
But
trying.
nothing like
to-
fully.
Not,
No.
yeah, see, and that's what I think we need a town, like a.
Yep.
So
I have it
I've
on
been
my list here.
gathering community that's just
That would
shared
be
spreadsheet
amazing.
right now.
That'd be amazing.
And
Yes.
we did this last year. It was a great exercise to identify
Mm-hmm.
overlapping dates or collaborative opportunities. And then it was incorporated into the chamber's publication. And so we're working on that right now, but I think maybe your website has like a hidden calendar that was
Well-
added at one point to be a community.
We have a calendar and we've added things like all the PSD dates and the CSU dates, and because we have like the Rocky Mountain Showdown, or Peter event.
But
And.
do we have one that's like just Wellington?
No, that's what I would love to see
Well,
with
like,
the school.
That's what this spreadsheet is intended to do as a starting point.
Who has access to the spreadsheet?
Me right now, but so I'm just consolidating as many events as I can learn of and get my hands on or know about. And then from there, really the follow-up conversation is what do we want to do with this? Where can we have this live in a digital format and have an opportunity for people to like submit their events?
And that's one of the assets we're discussing in our
calendar.
next board meeting.
Yeah.
How do we utilize this for the community?
Is there like a website?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. It needs to be something that's not specific to the chamber, not specific to Main Street.
That's what I was.
But it needs
yeah.
to be the whole town. It
Some
needs to be the
communities
whole
do like a visit Telluride. website.
Yeah.
And it is a partnership with everyone, and so when you have to think about, like, when you're Googling something, you're like, I'm visiting someone's, because they're not gonna know that your community has a chamber or a Main Street, or they might not know to search for the town,
Right.
so that's often the answer for communities is a visit page, which is co-hosted by multiple entities, so
I
there's
like
not the
that.
stepping on toes. And then it's like, well, if the chamber has it, then they don't know to go to the Main Street space, so that could be
Could it be
something
on
that
the?
this group considers as some type
And we
of
could
visit.
share it on
website.
our
So we want,
Wellington
we wanna
website.
make
That's what I was
that
about to say,
a
is
goal.
like, could it be on the town of Wellington?
It should be on the, I think, the town of Wellington website. I
It
think
should
live
be,
there.
so I don't know if, you've been in a lot of different areas and you've seen them, so if I go to, say, Crystal River, Florida. And I have rentals there, so I send people out and about, and whenever they want to access information, they click on a link and it takes them to a completely independent page that is nothing but the events. You click on the event and it takes you to a separate website that is only that event specific. So if someone wants information about that event,
Yeah.
it branches off into its own little thing. It's not mumbo jumbled, intertwined with 50 other things.
Right.
It's one solid website. And then from that website, you have all of your main events, and then you have a branch event for that specific event.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the Florida Manatee Festival, that website is beautiful, easy to access, great to navigate. But it comes off of a branch of Crystal River's website. So their town website has an events tab. That events tab literally goes through, I mean, and they've included different cities in that area. Just because there are smaller communities down there, so they branch out, but Wellington itself having its own. But you look and see those websites and it is pretty fantastic, but that would mean that there'd be accountability for keeping up with reporting to that one person that
Right.
handles events.
So who is, yeah.
There
Is that
would
like
be.
the IT person
Or,
that you're gonna
you know,
hire to do
or
it?
creating a site. No, no.
It could be
Oh,
a
this would
team
be,
though.
it could be a
Yeah,
team
it
of
could
people
be.
I
from.
think it's a team of a few people from each, so that they meet on a regular basis and say, okay, these are our events coming up.
You
Business
have
owners
deadline dates for
and even
businesses
business
to
owners that
connect.
maybe aren't
Right.
hurt.
able to screen the events is
Exactly.
important.
Yeah.
to
We're
make
talking
sure
about,
that
yeah,
the details are
Yeah.
correct.
creating the uniform application
Mhm.
that then goes into a queue that somebody has to approve before it appears to make sure that all those links exist, so it goes
Mhm.
someplace.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, and you know, and just like getting the word out, if you're working your media guide, you're placing your events on a whole variety of websites this way.
Mhm.
So adding a local one for Visit Wellington is not a difficult
It's
task.
probably be easier than being on the Wellington website.
Exactly, but you know, you handle it the same way. If you want to put your events on, you know, the Denver 9 News or any radio stations calendars or in the Coloradan, you know, you're entering stuff into their standardized form. Somebody's reviewing it for completeness and making sure that the links that you've incorporated go someplace.
Mhm.
And then it's approved and it appears on their calendar. It's actually a really simple process. There are a million tools like that.
Mhm.
So
But
maybe
having
it's not a
versus
team
the-
approving, maybe it's
Right.
like one person who's, you know, checking in once or twice a week.
What, I know Rebecca
Yeah.
and I've talked about this before too, because
Yep,
Windsor and we've spent a lot of time in Windsor and how they do it.
right.
What do they do?
I don't know for sure. but
And
I
is it
do
their
know
downtown business or their, something, I don't know.
There's the Downtown Business Alliance, there's
Yep.
all kinds of things, but when I'm thinking of a consolidated calendar, if you read NOCO style, you'll see
Mhm.
events from very few organizations in Wellington. Like Sparge always put theirs in there. That was pretty much, if you looked at Wellington, the only thing to do is Sparge on those months, if you were to look at NOCO style.
Mhm.
So if you do have a community consolidated calendar, it's very easy then to publish and distribute, like you said, to the Coloradoan, is you hand that calendar over to NOCO
NOCO.
style, and then we have a consistent calendar in all places, so I think that's a fantastic idea. That was one of the main initiatives of Main Street program like 5 years ago. That was like their top thing, is like doing a community calendar. Ayers and Associates was pushing it hard. So I think that's cool. I think that definitely is something.
So is that something we can live with this team? Is that what we're?
I
It's definitely
mean,
an
yeah, I mean,
action.
the purpose of this is for us to come up with key projects and collaboration opportunities for this year and what we would like to accomplish.
This kind of, that topic ties into, and then it was perfect when Kelly was talking about Visit Wellington website. But something I hadn't heard a lot of, well, I would say a lot that I heard overlapping, but one of the things I think that we don't think about a lot is tourism in general. And that relates to some other categories of things that we've been discussing, and then you guys are all, this is very overlapping, is a whole sense of our goal is to make Wellington business friendly, but I'm not just talking about, and we do a lot of great things for businesses. But I don't want to just be business friendly. I want to be business welcoming, like aggressively business friendly. I want to be soliciting Wellington.
Aggressively friendly.
Yeah.
Aggressively friendly. So So what goes along with that though, is this concept of inviting people in Wellington to Wellington. But like branding and marketing efforts, which everybody is doing something like that. But I
How we
think,
bring it together.
yeah, and how do we sell Wellington? So
And
it's,
having that company that you guys just picked to do.
Yeah.
And they are also working with the town, who are they working with?
Slate
Sorry.
Communications, yeah, for
Okay, yes.
the mini grant, and that
Yeah.
could be an opportunity. Because there's gonna have to be some type of like, usually there's like a slogan or a
Yes.
tagline.
Mhm.
And I feel like we're kind of circling on like this visit
I
Wellington.
like that idea.
And that is tourism, that is for local people, and so that might be a really good launching point for us to have that conversation and start doing the work now. And also Nick, Teams messaged me that the Visit Wellington domain is available for sale.
Well, I'm telling you, when I travel.
He already,
That's what I do
Yeah,
first.
Yeah.
That's what I do first. Whenever I travel, I'm going somewhere, I will do
Yeah,
that
Yes,
first.
and
things
I
to do.
want to make a note that when I said we want people to come to Wellington, and I said we want people in Wellington to come to Wellington. If Ed were here, he would bring up a leakage study, everybody's aware of that, how much money we lose from our own residents, millions of dollars in sales tax, hundreds of millions of dollars. So, it's not, I say tourism because I want us to approach it like it's like a tourism, and that's what I think of when I think of like the necessary steps.
but it's really like to get the people in Wellington to come to Wellington.
Yeah.
That's like our slogan of.
Yeah,
love
love where you live.
Yeah.
And like so many of these things are intertwined, and I think that there's a great opportunity for collaboration on that concept alone, because I've heard, we all have our own audiences, right? You guys have a Main Street district, you guys have your members. But whatever we do to enhance your own members, your own audience spills out into all of Wellington,
Yeah.
which is us, all of Wellington.
Mhm.
So I think, I hear so many of those overlapping things, and then I'm just gonna go through my list real quick, just so I can put those kind of things. I think we all kind of agree on that, and there's some great actual items that we could talk about further for strategically to do that, but we're all talking about economic development. There's many portions of that. Within the business development portion, I heard you guys talking about tons of opportunity for business development that you're doing. And then all the events that support business development and getting people out and together. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is I think that you guys are, like, both of you, the groups are really event heavy and do a lot of events. So I just would hope that like our group, I know in the town's totally involved from a staffing perspective, but us as leaders aren't necessarily there all the time. And I think that's something we can do better, is making sure that we're showing up and supporting you. And I mean, that's how I get to know everyone, is events. So I think that's a good opportunity. Community development's another major part of economic development, and that is the events, that's 4th of July, that's Trick or Treat Main Street. Those are the kind of things in addition. St. Patrick's Day. That's Parks and Rec, that's amenities, that's all of those portions together. So we all are working on a lot of things in that way. The economic policies and planning, a major part of economic development. So I was taking notes of like actual items that we can do from a planning or policies perspective to support really the initiatives that other people are doing. Like not one group can do it all, but what we can do is help other people to do it easier and better. So I have a few things there that I was thinking through, but I think aligns and overlaps with everything. The workforce development portion of economic development, I think, is definitely lacking. We talked about studies and things about affordability in general, whether it be water or housing affordability, all of them impact your dollars. So I think we're just starting there. I think there's a lot of opportunity for workforce development. You guys are talking to high schoolers.
Yeah.
There you go.
And to people who have ideas to start businesses,
Yeah.
to give them those tools so they can do those launches, and then trying to work with membership and helping them to strengthen their businesses through opportunities. How do you retain employees? Well, you might want to offer some health benefit opportunities.
Yes.
That isn't an anthem cover plan,
Yeah.
but you know, you have something to offer them.
Yes, but that, I'm
So-
gonna put that on my list right there too. for that.
Yeah, so we have that, and then a whole variety of other tools to say, hey, look, you probably haven't thought of this, but you know, here's some ideas to strengthen what you're doing here in town, which would be great.
Yes.
We've worked with the workforce development,
And learn.
amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
really good.
Yeah.
we have a school, and most of our group this go round is high schoolers that are utilizing the secondary education credits
Yes.
to start their junior year in completing a trade program.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those things, and Larimer County Workforce Development Center has been, I can't even tell you, $500,000 grants for schooling,
Right.
everything. It's,
Amazing.
yep. Have you guys
Amazing.
had anyone like that come to?
We have not,
Okay.
but that's a conversation we can help facilitate.
Mhm.
Because we're working with the SBDC and the state of Colorado, I mean, we're juggling plates right now. To try to make sure that we understand how it connects and how we be consistent in delivery. But I can have that conversation with workforce development in Larimer County and say, hey, is this something that you could bring to the Wellington Library? You know, and then contact the library to say, hey, can you do something like on a Saturday morning? To, to make that connection, to start the conversation and then say, hey, Wellington Library, wouldn't this be cool programming for you?
Yeah.
Talk to my friend at Workforce Development. So I'd be happy to facilitate that. We cannot house and manage it. We just can't. It's,
Just
so.
kind of related, SBDC also offered to do like a surviving construction session
Yes.
on the case study of Estes Park.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they were open to doing that too. So that's
Cool.
the collaborative stuff.
Yeah.
of the-
I have an idea for a collaboration with the town as you're bringing on an economic development manager for the town. At our February board meeting, our board is going to be reviewing, a proposal on a, needs and priorities survey. That I've done a bunch of research on. I'm trying to bring that to the table because we want to be talking to our members about what is it you need and, you know, what are your priorities? I would love to incorporate some of the basic questions to help get that that economic development conversation started. It's a perfect opportunity
Absolutely.
because, you know,
We can pass
that's,
that on.
yeah, that's 200 businesses right there. We
I
can
love it.
knock it out for you.
I
That's-
love it.
I was
Yeah.
thinking
Fantastic.
maybe a simple activity could be just consolidating a list of the contacts and resources that we have available.
See, that's what I was
for
thinking, like,
entities.
Yes.
Yeah.
it sounds like we all have some great
Stop.
resources. And Rebecca, are you, I had one thing I wanted to
Yes.
respond. Are you done with what you were saying? Cause I wanted to say on, I love the idea. I think we're trying to get
Yeah.
what we want to work on and what our team wants to do. I think brand is very, very important. I think we need to collaboratively look amazing. And so like if we did have a Visit Wellington page, calendar, whatever, we'd have the chamber logo, we'd have the, you know, all of our logos and stuff in the bottom. I actually had the idea, did a research on it, looked into it. I financially ruled it out for right then, but I looked into doing a billboard literally saying Visit Wellington right out of Cheyenne. Because we get so many Cheyenne people coming and shopping and they don't want to go all the way to Fort Collins. So if we had a billboard that said Visit Wellington with our logos and whatever on it or something really exciting, I guarantee you, we're gonna see big numbers coming in from Cheyenne.
Yeah.
So-
Absolutely.
That
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne is a huge, and I can give you a case study of that. My good friend opened up a restaurant years ago in Fort Collins and he literally did all of his ads in Cheyenne. And to this day, most of his customers are from Cheyenne. Melting Pot. Go look at how many Melting Pot people, they're everybody from Cheyenne comes to Melting Pot.
Yeah.
And he still advertises there. So I just, Visit Wellington, I think is a great brand that we could really make. I'm seeing it like with that, you know, that vintage look that all the towns do, you know, on a billboard. Anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's the experience of Wellington.
Mhm.
People don't think of this as a place where I can shop and, you know, there's nothing more than one shop or whatever. We heard consistently November, December. I had no idea you had so much retail here. I had no idea we called it the full Wellington. We
So I just think
breakfast
we
at
need
the
to work
tea
on
garden. We did all of our shopping in retail on the street. We stopped at Old Canyon for a scoop of ice cream before we went home to watch the championship game. But a lot of people, it was interesting because when we were looking at traffic to that whole shop campaign we were playing around with, it was Wellington #1, Fort Collins, Loveland, Cheyenne, and Loveland and Cheyenne were always switching places from day to day. It was kind of interesting how people were like really there and talked to a couple of businesses in town saying, we had these 4 girlfriends come from Cheyenne and they were just like saying, oh, we had no idea we could spend the whole afternoon here.
That's what they come to my place and I send them downtown.
I
Like,
know,
go
they
down.
don't know. And we also talked about some kind of signature event, like we need our own Frozen Dead Guys event. And that's why I sent you the Woolly Mammoth Days out of Virginia to say, oh my gosh, on a really pretty warm day, we could do a whole kind of history day for the self-guided history tours, the this, the that, and then have all kinds of things going on in town and parks and things to kind of say, hey, we didn't have a guy die from, you know, being frozen to death, but they did dig a bone. So, you know, kind of use it as a leverage to say, hey, we have our own thing.
No, we
and
haven't.
turn it into a thing.
And
I'm
I
so-
think also just generally speaking, we've talked about Wellington just being known for our events, like come spend
Yeah.
the holidays in
Yeah.
Wellington.
Yeah.
We
Well, we're
really
getting
work.
there with parades.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Fort Collins has shut down all their parades.
Yeah.
I know.
And so it's gonna be a big deal.
We totally need marching
So-
traffic cones and the 4th of July.
The only
parade.
thing is you guys did it during spring break.
We did,
We
which
did.
was
You did.
somewhat intentional. I mean, the dates are hard, but
Yeah.
we're like, maybe people are around and looking for things to do.
Maybe they're not leaving yet.
I'm
Maybe
flying
that
in,
that was our
yeah.
conversation.
Leave.
Maybe most people are leaving
I'm flying in.
Sunday or Monday. They're not actually leaving Saturday because it's too close to school.
It is also the same day as Denver's parade.
Yep.
Which I have run into because I've been contacting a lot of different groups, like bands and performers and
Yeah.
dancers. And a lot of them unfortunately are going to Denver.
Yeah.
But I still have faith. I've been working my butt off on
Okay,
it,
good.
so.
Well, and that
Yeah.
could be something in our brand that, I'm just saying, I think that we need to have a co-brand.
Yeah,
Well, we can
exactly.
capitalize on the people that don't wanna go to Denver.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of them.
Yes, there's.
There's a lot.
I met with I used to work with the executive director of the DBA in Fort Collins who produced the St. Patty's Day celebration. So I met with him to get his brain and contacts that he might have. And he's like, maybe be prepared. You may have more people than you expect because people are not wanting to drive down to Denver. And some of the groups that he worked with are, they're here and they're wanting to get involved in stuff.
Let it happen. Let that happen.
Yeah.
So are we gonna have just like a set, these are the things on our agenda, it'll be simple, we just talk about events.
Yeah.
Community development, business development, and then, like, we can all share from our, is that what you're seeing?
I think ultimately, yeah, what do we want to walk away with here tonight as action items that we as individual groups can work on collectively to come back, at a future date, see where we're at. Are you guys, was this beneficial? Do you guys like this?
Absolutely.
I have 5 action items that I've noted, if you want to review them.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
The first one was just exploring the Visit Wellington website, or, and that encompasses all of branding, marketing options, and if there's a co-hosted entity, that's then linked to separate organization sites. The next one is the needs and wants survey from the chamber and coordinating with the town.
I think
for
we'd love to
specific
be part of that
questions.
too.
So I think coordinating with everybody for the needs and wants survey.
We can share that.
Everybody was in favor of sharing their contacts, consolidating calendars. And what I heard at the end that we didn't take as a takeaway, but it sounds like we would love to do an events planning brainstorming session of potential events, or I think we should probably share the events that we do actually already do and maybe look for holes.
Mhm.
There's a lot of really fun creative ideas out there, but events are a lot of work.
Yeah.
So we can't just say, hey, let's just do this new event. That's so much, but if we can incorporate it or enhance existing events or.
Come be a part of each
planning.
other's, yeah.
I think that would be great. But I hear so many cool ideas, but those events are always start with like these Wellorama. Is an amazing event. And it was so good for our town, but it's so much work.
Mhm.
And everybody here are very busy people, every single person in here. So, if that was something we were going to consider, it would have to be a significant effort by a specific entity. So, a good idea only goes so far unless somebody's actually running.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it would be nice to know like specifics on every single person's event. You guys are already participating in those events at the time, but it would be cool not to just put them on the calendar, but actually talk through them, purpose, function.
Right.
Those
I
kind of
think
things.
the key to successful events is partnerships all the way. The
Has to
best events that we've had have multiple partners involved in owning various aspects of
Yeah.
them. So I think looking holistically on the events that we have and like where everybody can sort of take a piece of that and have some ownership over it would really.
And really just our community, it's good to know what's going on in Fort Collins, but I know we've been trying to plan different events and then I find out it's homecoming night.
Yeah.
And I find out it's, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, I would love for us to have a year out event
No
planning
football game
meetings.
nights, because we need everybody at football games.
Yeah,
Like that, for
exactly.
example.
Like
Yeah.
those, so that as a community, I think event planning, maybe it's heavy at a certain time of the year, maybe we have a heavy event planning meeting in October for the next year. And then, you know, and then it won't, then it's just managing how we do events and that kind of thing, but really have it down for the year ahead, so.
And treat those football games as
And
major town events where people
Right.
can get all the information.
We
And
have
we don't have
parades,
kids.
Like a homecoming parade.
Yeah.
Right.
Wellington does parades.
But just to be able to know, oh, they're home, we can walk over and go to a football game. If
Right.
you don't have a student, you're really trying to
Mm-hmm.
find
Yeah.
the information. It's hard to
Well,
find.
and the complication of getting tickets if you don't have a student.
Yeah, if you don't
That's a
know, it's
common
like.
One that
it's
I hear a
crazy
lot of the
trying to
time.
navigate that.
Mhm.
So, and then, oh, did we make it to the championship or we're only on step 1 out of 5? Oh, okay. So it's
Right,
like,
right.
oh my gosh, you know, we're wanting to.
Unless you religiously follow it, it's hard
Yeah,
to
it's
catch on.
really hard
Yeah.
to navigate and more people would go if it were just easy. Oh, look, there's a football game tonight, buy your ticket, go in here
Right.
and do that, you know, simple.
Not just football, but softball and
Everything.
volleyball
Volleyball.
and I know that some of
Musical
the.
theater, you know, they're doing theater programs and like trying to find those productions is really
The
production.
school should probably be a compass, really.
For sure.
Thinking
I-
about it.
That's
Well, with us
perfect.
having that
Yeah.
here. we should-
Yeah.
So is it gonna be in your planning session meetings? Is that what we're saying?
I have no
I
idea.
got one comment from Caitlin here.
I love your list. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And the only other burning question I have that has been discussed on the Main Street side is forming maybe a smaller subcommittee around economic development activities specifically, because they're specific and we can come at them in different ways. So I wonder if maybe we want to think about that also as something that could form out of this.
And if, do we have subcommittees that maybe do a lot more of the work and then we report to this every once in a while? I don't know, I'm just saying. What is most effective?
Like in events, promotions, economic development, maybe, or something like that.
And not everybody's on every committee.
Right.
I don't know if that works or not.
Yeah.
I think it's worth exploring
Yeah.
to see what it's gonna look like. I don't think we need to narrow it down to 9.
I mean, if the C3 group, you know, they're gonna start working
Right.
together, maybe that's the natural progression
Yeah.
of that group.
Mhm.
Of, you know, now that you've mastered all of Cleveland Avenue.
Right.
Yes, let's move on and just conquer the entire town. So, I mean, maybe that's a good progression step for that group, if that's an interest in them, because they'll be working together already closely. That's the right parties.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea. And I think I'd like to get this group back together in a couple months. And maybe not on a board meeting night, another nights, because I've already got like things booked out for the Board of Trustees until, you know, for several months. And if we need to talk to you all in the meantime, as far as if something comes up, so I'm thinking about the Visit Wellington website. Do we just want to go on ahead and grab that domain while it's still available?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there is, so New Zealand also has a Wellington.
Yes.
So does Ohio.
Visit
So does
Wellington,
Florida.
Colorado.
That's what I was
So
trying to do.
Theo,
Visit
yeah,
Wellington,
I'm like Theo.
Just kidding.
I say, but if we own Visit Wellington,
No one else can use
we'll
it.
get more hits. Maybe we'll get people from New Zealand down here.
When we made that mistake and going to Wellington, New Zealand page.
Yeah.
They're gonna realize it's Colorado.
There's been a guy promoting his pizza place and it's in Wellington, New Zealand. He's like promoting it in the Wellington Facebook page.
There's a Wellington, Florida, Wellington Manor.
Yeah.
It's a retirement community.
Oh,
That is a problem.
We have people call and angry about their water bill from Wellington, Florida.
Oh, geez.
Yes, and mad
Yes,
because I
Wellington,
sent
Florida, I
my
get
payment in, this is my account number. And I'm like, oh, that's not one of our account numbers. You're calling from Wellington, Florida? Yes. Let us give you their phone number.
So let's get Wellington, visit Wellington, not Florida, visit Wellington, CO, visit
Yes,
Wellington.
we.
you know?
And we'll just pay to bump it up a little bit, I think, just to start getting us the traction we need. I don't know, I kind of like the idea of separating out committees, but let's kind of, I'll work with Caitlin and Carol and Kelly and let us kind of debrief a little bit and talk
Mhm.
about this in the best direction we might want to go, that think that might get the most work done effectively and efficiently. Because I know it's more than what we can take on, but I think you all are more than capable of helping with your great ideas and things like that, so. Let me kind of figure this out a little bit internally and then get with everyone and we'll come up with a plan. But I will try to schedule something out. You think in 2 months, or is that too long? Would you like to get together sooner?
When does construction start?
Probably August, September.
I would say if that's starting and that seems to be the biggest thing, you already have a whole committee for that one,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So I would say successfully 2 months, because then it gives, does that give you guys time
And
to
we can
plan
set it up
and?
to quasi quarterly.
Yeah. How we
Yeah,
want to do it.
but well after St. Patrick's Day, so you guys aren't thinking about this while you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
fantastic.
everybody's
Yeah.
real busy.
I will do that. We'll set up another meeting and get with the core team here and we'll set up another date that people are generally available and we'll reserve this room and go from there.
You all are doing amazing work for our town.
Yeah,
Thank
do
you.
you have any closing remarks?
I'll work with you.
Closing remarks?
I don't know, maybe Claire, is Claire still on?
Yes, I'm still here. I'm here.
I'm sorry that we probably should have added her into talking.
It's okay. I was just listening. My only closing remark would be for scheduling out another meeting for this group. Carol said that their strategic planning isn't done, and since the chamber's also just gone through a transition period, maybe making it like after whenever they can do their strategic planning, if that would be beneficial for the chamber, just because we already have to push it out after St. Patrick's Day. That would kind of be the only thing.
Good idea.
Is that feasible?
Yeah, that is, I think we'll probably be in a good place by the end of April. We have 2 meetings scheduled for April to get after it, so.
So maybe schedule it for 3 months instead of 2.
So maybe May, early May, and we'll be.
Okay,
Anything pressing, we'll connect
Yeah,
with who we need to connect
absolutely.
with.
Okay, good plan.
I was just gonna say, for like, I know obviously there's a lot of members that, are not here and, I feel like I've always find out stuff like secondhand. And is there some kind of website
This will be
or
recorded.
all, like, I meant like, what am I trying to say? Like a place that kind of like, base
Like
camp.
dumping ground.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like base camp. We use base camp to communicate with each other all the time. And there's like a little chat area and a place that you can assign people tasks and stuff. Is there something like that we could all be a part of?
The only
No.
catch and caveat
No.
to that is
Okay.
with trustees, it's different with public information.
Oh,
So unless
okay.
you want everything you say being able to be or requested,
Yeah,
you might want to leave us out of
okay,
that one.
okay,
Just my take on it.
Okay.
So
We can always send
I
emails.
just,
Yeah,
yes,
is there a-
messages, I don't mind getting a message on events going on.
okay.
Like seriously, if there's stuff that you guys want me to share, I share stuff all the time on my trustee page.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to share information. It's actually how I found out about the massages, the discounts that you guys were offering on the gift cards for massages. But yeah, no, so
Okay.
I would say that.
Maybe just
Yeah.
a list of emails, because I don't have.
A group,
Yeah,
I guess
that's
she's
what-
asking, how
yeah.
are we gonna,
How can we communicate as a group?
Thank you.
Well, I was communicating,
I
I communicate to Carol and I communicate
Yes.
to Caitlin and I communicate to the Board of
Yes.
Trustees.
So it's-
With the thought that your staff
Everybody.
liaisons would communicate out from there.
Yeah, and obviously that is great, but if you know, Caitlin is busy doing other work and I had a quick question for, you know, somebody or a group of people. I feel like just having an email list that we could just put together all of our emails tonight.
A phone
would
tree.
be- A phone tree would be like,
Oh, my gosh.
I prefer the board of trustees not be on that list
Yeah.
because the.
You guys.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah,
can do that.
sure.
You guys do
can
your
that,
thing.
for
Okay.
sure.
I prefer the trustees to not just because of the issue with Cora. And that's a thing and that.
and your emails are public anyway.
Yeah.
so
Right.
Yes.
we
Yeah.
could just
And it's,
look that up.
I mean, core is one thing. The other thing is that we shouldn't be participating outside of meetings or
Mhm.
making any public decisions and, or
Correct.
Or
in
social
general, with
service.
3 or more of us,
Okay.
from our.
Are you talking about just needing volunteers for something or, hey, FYI, this is going on?
Literally just
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
It's just like
Got it.
But we
very.
just avoid group
Yeah.
reply emails. for
Yes.
that reason, just
That's
so you
Yeah,
know.
you can
totally
do that.
fine. I
But
just-
if Patty is on that
Yeah.
email
Yeah.
list, she can share it with the trustees.
And she does,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
and she
okay.
does.
You
Okay,
don't have to.
perfect.
Yeah.
Solve it.
Sorry, I've never been a part of something
You're-
like this,
That's
so I'm
okay.
like
You're-
trying to gain information and knowledge, so I'm just.
You don't need to applaud.
I
Plug in.
understood what you were saying.
I'm sorry, I'm not always the best with my words.
Yeah, I thank all of you for coming, taking time out of your nights, to do this with us and I'm really excited about it. I don't know about you guys. Yeah, I feel like you're excited about it.
Yeah.
So, we'll see where it grows and what it can turn into and, it's gonna be good for Wellington. So, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, you want to take a quick break and then we'll do our other stuff?
Angela, eat more pizza.
Yes.
Get out of your head.
I probably. When I make my notes, I'm like, these are shared.
Caitlin. Caitlin. Caitlin.
But I will all.
Caitlin. 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 Patty.
Yeah. So St. Louis is my town.
Right.
Caitlin.
Well, duck fairs, I do like duck fairs.
Yeah.
I think the fire department was a great idea. So what? The fire department was a great idea.
Yeah, that was a great, that was Lisa.
Right?
Yeah.
I might as well have another piece.
There you go, because they've been talking about it forever and ever and ever.
Do this challenge with a bunch of guys, well, not girls too. But I'm pretty good.
I didn't watch that one. Oh my gosh. Holy buckets. It starts at 1 and then gets all the way up to, I wanna say, it got all the way up to 200. And, but we didn't have to do them all at
Right,
once, like
right.
we could
That's how-
break it up through the day.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah. It's always, I stretch my arm with Brian Fisher and it hurts.
I have the roller. And
Yeah, I have one of
everyone's
those.
crazy about, like, they're like, oh, little contraptions don't work. That thing actually,
I have those perfect push-ups.
yep, I've seen those too,
Those
so they
things are
don't.
perfect too.
But the little roller thing, I still have to do it on my knees.
Yeah,
because I
everyone's
have
spread
the
out. We got all the
foot
space.
muscles from
All the
the
space.
legs.
You did a good job.
And so if I did not. do
That was
like,
gold.
Not that you were super chatty all the
So I
time.
still have to go on my knees, but the,
Yeah, they do.
not, instead, you might be visiting down once, and I went to their house to visit, and we had one sitting in the basement. I told you it work.
I'll still have. Yeah.
Okay,
Here, yes.
we live?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so everybody got the packet, obviously. This discussion is gonna be over how we do our interview process with the boards and commissions. Trustee Ken and I were talking about this, and wanted to bring before everybody to see, you know, where we wanna move forward, how we wanna move forward, how do we wanna make it, work within our board and commission. So, there's information in the packet, obviously showing how some other municipalities do it, things of that nature. I do have comments from trustee Cannon and from trustee Lowry, or trustee Moyer on this, that I can share, but I'd like to go around, and I guess we'll start with trustee Daly and gather your input, and then we'll just move down the row.
I know that I, for sure, do not think that the entire board needs to do interviews. I think it's, really, intimidating. And people during their interviews have been like, whoa, this is really intimidating. So, I mean, that's the feedback that we've gotten in person. But I mean, otherwise, I'm really open to whatever is going to encourage more people to volunteer and feel really comfortable doing it. And then super values their time, and lets them know that it's really important what they're doing, and it's a big deal that they're showing up. So whatever the policy is that we come up with, that's just my goal in mind. I don't want to make it difficult for people to participate.
Just streamline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want it to be easy to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I would be fine with, either option 1 or 3. I can certainly understand the benefits by, limiting the number of board members included, but I can also understand that, board members would want to be included. Frankly, it does not matter to me a lot where we go with this, right? The goal is to obviously get quality applicants and to fill seats. So I guess I would point out that even if we do have a 2-member liaison approach, we can always overrule that as the rest of the board if we were so inclined.
Yes, go for it.
I would see either 1 or 2. I think, better the participation from the board, the better. Have we ever had any really super negative feedback? I haven't the full board there.
Yeah, from candidates themselves,
We have, okay.
I have, yeah, I've received that.
is it just felt like they're intimidated? Would they be intimidated anyway with 4 or 5 people there instead of 6 or 7? So, you know, I guess the biggest thing is, you know, making sure that we have enough people there to do what we have to do and to get them through the interview process. You know, since it is, sometimes we can make it, sometimes we cannot. Unless we have somebody, the liaison or somebody contacting to see who's gonna be at the meeting. You know, make sure there's a certain amount that's always gonna be there. But, yeah, I think either 1 or 2 would work.
Trustees.
I enjoy everyone attending. I think when we discussed this before, everyone was kind of okay with how it was going or discussing more ideas on what we could do to improve it. I love the fact that we are 7 elected officials. We represent 7 different voices in this community. We all represent so many different people. I love the fact that it's an option if you want to attend or not attend. I don't think we've actually ever had a full group do an interview. I love that that's our first meeting with this person who's interviewing, because they get to meet most of us. Because we generally, reality is we probably won't see them again throughout a lot of their volunteering period, unless they're a chair that's coming to represent an entire board or commission. I think the constructive feedback that each board of trustee member gives in our review session is really productive. It gives everyone a chance to look at different options and alternatives, and we see things differently than other people might see that go through the interview process. And I think that when you look at it, there's not a lot of like community choices that we really get to make because we're more policy based. This is one opportunity where if the board chooses to participate in seeing who's going out and representing our community, they have an option or choice to do so. I think that it bodes well if more of us do attend, because it means that we're just as interested in who is representing our community. If 1 or 2, I mean, I've done an interview with 2 when I was on a board, and actually that was a little bit more uncomfortable with just 2 people selecting instead of like a community selecting me. That was just one of my things when I went through one of my interview processes. I got to experience both with all of a board and then only 2 people. And the 2 people was actually a little bit more intimidating because I didn't really know them very well. So that's maybe one thing to look at. The one thing I would like to see is I would like to see the members have to kind of attend maybe an hour informative session where they break down the boards in like 10-minute sections, where town staff actually, or we have a video formed or put together, where a lot of the questions that we do in these interviews, when we get asked questions back, they're questions that could have been answered maybe in an informative session or them attending a meeting of that board. So I don't know how that might look, where we say you need to either attend one session of this board, because hopefully they're gonna attend a session of something. If they're gonna be committed and dedicated to doing it, they're gonna show up to a board meeting and see what the board's about. Where we see an informative session that's put on maybe by town staff, it can cover, you know, conflicts of interest, it can cover what this board does in the community, stuff like that. And then our interview would be more of a relaxed interview where we weren't asking, you know, generalized. Some of the questions we ask were like, oh, well, this doesn't pertain to you, or, you know, or this might not pertain to you as much as, say, another item or question could have pertained to you. So that's something that I would like to see is either that they have a verification that they've attended a board meeting, or that they've done an information session about what that board is about. Because sometimes we'll have some people sit in on interviews and it sounds like they don't even know what they're doing in that, for that board, or they get their what that board involves or entails confused. But I do like getting to see, because I mean, some of these boards represent quasi judicial items. I would say that having 7 of us select planning commissioners and give productive feedback or board of adjustments, I think it's important that we're all involved in some of those selections, not just 2, because then it's not representing the community, it's representing 2 people that are making that solid decision. That, and it seems like there's a lot less arguments since it's been open to everyone than what it was before, when we only had the 2 interviewing. There was a lot more, it felt like conflict and argument because some people didn't agree with what those 2 people selected. So I think leaving the option open holds us as trustees accountable. Well, did you attend the interviews? If you didn't, that's on you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my take on it. So I would like to see it stay open as an alternative for anyone to be able, any one of us as trustees, mayor pro tem, mayor, to attend.
Okay.
Some might not.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's kind of how it's been.
Okay.
And then I'd like to see maybe a verification of an information session or a general meeting attended, so they at least understand the direction of what that board does. And because there's good describers online, but that could also answer some of those preemptive questions that we receive during those interviews that might make it a little bit more, if people are uncomfortable. I haven't ever received the uncomfortable feedback. Whenever people have left when we do interviews, they're super excited for a chance to get to meet us and are always thankful and grateful that we took an opportunity to sit down with them.
Yeah.
So.
What would that look like? Have you ever seen any municipalities, Patty, or that have them watch an informational video before?
No, I haven't seen that. I mean, there is a question on the application. I think that if asking if you have attended one of the advisory board meetings, one of the things that we've talked about in the last time Sarsa was here, was after the applicants are approved or recommended resolution is done, then we would host some sort of time for Dan to go through quasi judicial, all those types of things, just like as an informative session for.
You were putting videos
And
together,
then
right?
the idea was putting videos
Video
together, kind of a checklist of here's the orientation includes, do all these things, but after.
But after, and then have them sign a document that they attended, we can submit that to Sarsa so that they know that our boards and commissions are in compliance. But that would be after.
Okay.
That makes sense, that's a lot of work.
Oh, I'm gonna read trustee Cannon's, trustee Moyer's, and then I'll give my input, and then we can kind of have open discussion at that point. So trustee Cannon's, I mean, his comes down to, he thinks that having the entire board involved kind of moves us into operations and management outside of policy. So his first thought is that we should stick to policy, and so he states our municipal code, section 2-2-90. Consistent with this code, the Board of Trustees has created such boards and commissions as may now exist and may create additional boards and commissions in the future. The Board of Trustees shall serve as the governing body and may appoint members to, if so authorized, the mayor with such approval of the Board of Trustees as may be required by this code shall create and appoint members to such boards and commissions as may now or hereafter exist, including limited to the following Board of Adjustments. This still states the CAC, the Housing Authority, the Library Board, Liquor License Authority, Planning Commission, Sewer Enterprise Board, Water Enterprise Board. So it's an older policy. He also stated in here that the board had never done collective interviews like this before 2020. And I'll continue, bear with me. Wellington code states that the board of trustees may appoint members. Such boards and commissions prior to 2020 appointments in Wellington were exercised by each board or commission conducting interviews and forwarding their recommendations to the Board of Trustees for formal appointments. This is how governing boards across the country typically make appointments. While the Wellington Code does not specifically prohibit the Board of Trustees from conducting the interviews, I believe it is bad practice for these following reasons. One, the Board of Trustees is a political organization with the sole purpose of establishing policy by enacting laws within the community. He is concerned about the appearance of abuse of the Board of Trustee hand-picking individuals to serve our local boards and commissions. One only must look at state and federal politics to see examples of packing the courts, so to speak, to ensure political agendas are followed. Board and commission success is determined by the cohesion and trust of its members. Each board or commission has the best knowledge of their ideal team composition and therefore should conduct the interviews and forward their recommendations to the board for approval. The board can always deny the appointment, but it should not be telling the board who to appoint. As for the interview process itself, he has performed hundreds of interviews over the years and has had good success selecting candidates to fill vacancies. The reason for that success is that he goes into the interview with a firm idea of the ideal candidate, and he asks the questions designed to help determine whether that candidate meets those expectations. Secondly, there's an art and a science to interviewing. He always begins by asking non-threatening questions, and that will serve two purposes. It sets the candidate at ease, and it allows him to see how the candidate responds. You should be looking for a candidate that can stay on point, is direct and concise, convey their desire to serve in the position. A great example is, before we begin, tell us a little about yourself and why you're interested in this position. And a good response should be brief, around a minute, and should highlight the skills or values that make them a good fit, and should convey their desire to serve in the position. You want to see energy, enthusiasm, knowledge, and desire. Candidate cannot answer the basic question, and how can we expect them to address complex town issues? I once asked this question to an individual who was seeking a position as a public works director, and he spoke nonstop for 15 minutes. He did not get the job. Subsequent questions should be specific to the board or commission or our current process asks the same qualifying questions the candidate has already answered in their application. There's no need to repeat ourselves unless our objective is to look incompetent. Side being qualified only gets you to the table. The interview is to determine whether you fit. He would task each board or commission to come up with 12 to 15 specific questions pertaining to that board or commission. That staff could help them with this process. Each question should be open-ended and allow the candidate 1 to 2 minutes to answer. So avoiding yes and no questions. Don't ask, do you understand the roles and responsibilities? Yes, no. Instead ask, tell us about your thoughts on the roles and responsibilities. So on and so forth. After all the questions are asked and answered, allow the candidate to ask questions to or provide clarification. This is the wrap-up that gives the candidate the opportunity to reaffirm their desire to serve on the board or commission. After all interviews are complete, the board or commission should forward their recommendation to the board for formal appointment. He then goes into the finance committee, ideas on the finance committee. Wellington went through a couple rough years with the finance director turnover. We missed 3 audits, our water costs.
I think that's for the next item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. You didn't clarify on here.
No, that's fine. No, I heard you talk about finance and,
Perfect.
no, that's the next item.
So basically what I got from Ed in this is he thinks that we should allow the chair of the board, or commission, and to do the interviews and then recommend them to us. So that's the gist I got out of that from Ed.
I'm thinking number 4 is what he was saying, right? Adam Matthews in that one.
Yeah, liaison and the chair. That pretty much.
That one doesn't even include, staff liaison.
I don't like that idea. Someone from the board needs to be involved.
To me, that feels intimidating. you just went through, these are volunteers.
Right.
Like you look and see the volunteers that we have. Can you see anyone sitting through an interview like that?
Yeah. Well, this is how they used to do them. According to Ed and according to Eric Starter, this is how it was when he came on board, I believe.
Yeah.
That's for planning commission.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I watched those interviews.
Yeah.
So those were live broadcast too.
Yeah.
So
Didn't say anything about live in here, but,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's his input.
I watched them live, that Lindenack interviewed, there was a bunch of people that interviewed for those
Yeah.
positions. So, and that was a way more serious kind of,
And you're talking about intimidating?
yeah.
That would be intimidating,
Mhm.
I think.
Just a normal interview with one person.
Oh,
I would be more concerned that any particular commission or entity would be more inclined to interview folks that may be their
Mhm.
friends or these types of things without additional oversight from folks that are not involved.
Right, like play their own politics per se.
The board almost certainly needs to be involved. I think the question here is, how many from the board?
Okay. I'm now gonna read trustee Moyer's. Her thought for the night is that she likes option 2. What we do now is overkill, not necessary and intimidating. Also, if we collect all the you live in city limits business on the application, can those be skipped in the interviews? And, that's what she had to say on that. I would like to see it just be easier, not just on the applicants, but the ease of the process. Easier on, well, I guess it'd be Hannah, setting up the meetings, trying to get emails sent to everybody and get all the dates set up. And when it's open to the entire board, I believe it makes you feel as if you have to be there. It does that for me personally. So I am a fan of option 2. Personally, I think that's great. But I'm open to,
so then you
other
remove
discussion.
anyone who's not a board liaison. To not be able to do interviews. So then you're pretty much, so who's assigned to boards here in town? Lowry, Rebecca.
Yeah, I said I'm open to more discussion. I just
Okay.
said I like option 2.
The only thing I maybe disagree with, obviously, well, as we have more than 2 people, then it's a public meeting. We have to advertise that, and obviously from Hannah's perspective, right, if we, a meeting invite goes out and a bunch of people, maybe we get down to the deadline and we don't have board members saying that they accept the meeting. Either way, she needs to have a decision at some point whether the meeting needs to be published or not. And I guess I would also say, I don't know. I guess I'm not necessarily opposed to having members of public at interviews, but that would be far more intimidating, I think, to folks, right? If you have random community members there that are not part of the interview process, wouldn't that be more intimidating? I figure it would.
Well, but then they go and sit on a board and it's open to the public.
But it's different. Because interviews, if you're interviewing, you're trying to be the best you that you can be, you're gonna be going into that. Everybody's nervous going into interviews normally. And then you increase the number of people that are there watching that interview and you're just amping up that level of nervousness and then once they're on that board, they get to know the people, they watch and learn about everything. They become comfortable to act in a completely different role because it's different getting interviewed than it is sitting on a board. It is.
I guess where I'm, go for it.
And I want to make sure it's not just intimidation of the candidate. I've gotten some feedback from chairs too, that they felt like, they're the closest to their advisory board. They run it, they have the history of it. And sometimes when there's a lot of board members, they feel like they don't get a say and they don't get to participate in the interview
because they only get to ask like one or two questions out of all the other things, and it's like, you know what I mean? And they feel intimidated because they also don't work with us all the time.
Yeah.
So they kind of feel like if they get invited, they feel like they aren't important. And this is really just a great opportunity to like celebrate them, I think, and to give them the opportunity to have that ownership because they're in a leadership position in their town. So I've gotten that feedback from two chairs actually of that they don't think that their role in the process is enough because there's too many trustees there. So that or they felt like intimidated or they didn't get to participate enough. So that's the feedback I've gotten from two chairs.
Yeah, I can see, because when we do go around the table asking each one question and then it just keeps going around, does anybody at that table really get to know that person?
There's not very much conversation.
Deeper, because
Yeah.
it's pretty, it's like a task.
But they could ask, because so that's why we leave it open at the end.
Right.
Where if they have additional questions, because we ask additional questions at the end, anyone's able to ask additional questions.
Right, but then we have to technically ask those exact same questions to the next applicant if they're going for that same position, make sure it's fair and even.
Well, you'd have to do that with any of them. So if you're going and stemming off of, you're gonna turn this into a real interview
It'd be less
process.
people having to remember exactly what they said to get that process done, so it'd be quicker and more efficient.
I know, I think still in general and in my opinion, we're a board of 7 elected by 7 people. We appoint all of these members to these boards. They're not elected. We appoint them. So I would like to be involved in the interview processes. This is how I get to meet the people that are active in our community. So that's kind of one of those things where I would still say that I think if the date and time is set, because how we've been pretty much doing is the day and time gets set, and then we just RSVP if we can attend or not. So you can attend or you cannot attend. There's some that I've had to miss. I know there's some that generally all of us at one time or another have missed interview processes. I wouldn't say you'd feel guilty for missing an interview process, just explain to the board that people understand this is an open interview. Those that are wanting to be here and be a part of the process are here. In general, I think the board of trustees all should be offered an opportunity, but I also think the public should be also, because I mean, they're representing our community. So it's one of those things that the more transparent we can be, the better. I also think that having an interview during a public open item is also one of those things that they are gonna have to get used to representing a community in front of people. I mean, we all talked about this before when it used to be 2, and then we all voted to allow everybody in to do the process, and now we're changing it
Yeah, we have new board members.
again.
It was, in my opinion, it got sloppy. It was hard to do. I had feedback when they'd sit down, wow, this is intimidating. First thing they'd say, well, that's gonna not set them up for success to interview well. So that's my take. Dave, I haven't heard much from you.
I would say, I can see the different points throughout. If we have more than 2 trustees, is that an open meeting? It would be that we would have to have it. So we've been doing it wrong
Right.
all this time.
No,
No,
they've been
publishing it.
Oh, they have,
But
we
we just haven't had anybody show up.
okay, because I noticed we always had it kind of shut over there and nobody was,
White House's wife,
Oh, yeah.
she attended his
okay.
interview.
Yeah.
But it really, I don't think it's that intimidating. 2 trustees
It
would be
was-
okay. Okay, go ahead.
There was the gentleman that had wanted to sit in and listen to all of the other applicants.
That was on
because
the
it
housing.
wasn't
The housing
public meeting.
authority.
That was the
Right,
housing authority.
Right, but he would not have been able to do that had it not been a public meeting. So I just want to
Yeah.
So how would
share that.
how would we do it if we had like 2 trustees? If we'd had the mayor and but would you be available all the time? I mean, that's gonna put a lot more pressure on you.
I don't, I mean.
How would we do it?
I don't think, I mean, I don't think it, if we wanted to choose two people from the board and just say, this is who it is, and we rotate that, or where everybody gets a go on different boards and commissions, I mean, I don't think we need to say it's these two people every
So
time.
you'd be doing the appointing on that
It would be an appointment in a meeting.
okay,
And I would
when they're
take-
coming
I
out?
would just take the word of whoever interviewed, then, yeah, this is who we chose.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I could handle that, you know, a couple trustees, that way you at least get more than just one.
Yeah.
Just more than just the liaison on that. You know, I don't think the other part is that big of a problem, but then with the open meetings, I could see where that could be a little bit of a problem.
And how much
You
work-
talk about intimidation, again, that is, you know,
Yeah.
some people just really are not that comfortable talking.
Right.
And, you know, whether they're, you know, comfortable or not, does not make them a bad board member at that point too.
Right.
So, you know, we got a lot of good people, and if they're willing to participate, and actually get themselves out there, we should take advantage of anybody and everybody, at least give them the opportunity.
Right, I think we also, I mean, personally, I think, look at how can our clerk's time be best served? Is it making public notice of us interviewing for boards and commissions, or is it
Right.
doing things that are actually beneficial and really helping us grow instead of all these interviews and having to schedule everybody and spend that time? I know Ethan was always very stressed out on those days and weeks leading up to interviews, because he was trying to get them lined up to where he could knock them out in a row. And that was a lot of, I think, energy expended where it could have been utilized better elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Logistics.
Right.
Something that back in the day that we used to do is when somebody was appointed, we'd actually just say a couple statements about that person. Because not everybody participated. So it'd be like, or where I was the one who interviewed them, I'm recommending them based off of ABC. And then it's a agenda item, right? And then, does anybody have any questions? No, nobody has ever, but that's something that's come up before.
I think that's a good thing to have, almost like a findings of fact.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
like, if you weren't at the interview, but let me tell you why we chose, why we're recommending this person. That could be, or more of a presentation potentially instead of a, action item maybe.
Okay.
So it's not open for public comment necessarily, but it's just like a, you know, a presentation. I don't know how that would work, but just, if not everybody can be at an interview, but they want to know about the person that they're putting into that position, I think that might solve that problem, if you guys wanted to hear about that. The other thing is too, when we say, well, I wouldn't be uncomfortable in that position, we're on a board that sits in front of people all the time. I mean, I could fill this entire room and feel completely comfortable talking about whatever I wanted, but that's not normal people. Actually, one of our Parks and Recs guys, he was a public speaker. That was his job, was to train people for public speaking. He let us know that public speaking is the number 2 most feared item after drowning. And then after that was being caught on fire.
Man, I
So
would've put
After
fire up
that,
above that.
fire.
he said it was
Okay.
number
Where are
2.
the sharks at on that one?
I'm sure there maybe some that, but he's like, this is my job, and he's just like,
Yeah.
regular people who aren't on boards,
Yeah.
public boards, serving an entire community, are not comfortable speaking in front of a lot of people. So it is intimidating, and imagine just getting the call saying, I'm scheduling your appointment to sit with 7 members of the board of trustees. Like that alone would be like, oops, I'm sorry, wrong number. I didn't mean to apply for that. So that alone, just that conversation of, I'm setting up this interview, will be very intimidating to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not us. I definitely think not us. I think all of us would be like, cool, bring it on. But
I wasn't, with
but
the
a lot
two
of-
people, I wasn't, so that was,
You were uncomfortable.
yeah, I was uncomfortable with that one. So, I mean, I think it's person specific on what you're comfortable and not comfortable with. The thing I guess I would ask is when you look at that, like Parks and Rec and stuff like that, if that's something where they would like to have only two doing the interview. But I truly feel that Board of Adjustments and Planning Commission should have the Board of Trustees. I mean, they're making quasi judicial decisions. It should have the entire board's feedback before someone is appointed.
Why can't we just trust the feedback of the board members?
It's not trusting, it's knowing that I was accountable, I interviewed this person. So if someone comes to me and says, I can't believe you picked this person, I look at them and say, well, I didn't do the interview.
I don't know, I'm just trying to feel this out to see whether you would be something maybe you'd be interested in, even if we chopped it down and said, well, only two members are gonna participate in the interview process. Regardless, all of the applicants and their applications get emailed to the board prior to the interviews, regardless of which two members it is, but everybody gets a copy of the applications. That way we know who it is and what they put on their application, but
Then you have a broader idea of who they are.
So, but what if you have questions?
I think it's gotta be on the interview panel.
I do have to mention, there's a reason why the Board of Trustees don't serve on the Planning Commission and Board of Adjustments.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for Ed, but if I were to go on the same kind of concept of Ed, where he's uncomfortable appointing people to boards and commissions because it looks like we're stacking them. I mean, those are exactly the boards that we should not actually participate in my mind.
We're not supposed to attend the meetings.
Right,
That's
we're
like
not supposed to
people
attend the
before us.
meetings. I mean, the point is that they are independent of us. So,
But they make very important decisions.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So,
So I would say, and like I said, I'm not gonna speak on behalf of Ed, but like something in his statement made me think of that, of, if there's a concern about us, planting people in certain places, those are exactly the places where we should not be able to.
yeah,
plant people
that makes a
into.
lot of sense.
So I almost kind of disagree on that kind of grounds, and that's exactly why we removed the Board of Trustees from those boards.
I don't know, I think I may have mentioned this back when this was talked about 2 years ago. But, and I don't care either way. I mean, I'm good however you all decide you want to go, but the open meeting piece works fine until you have to deliberate in public and choose someone over another. And I saw that go really poorly in Windsor when I was there, because there was a time that there was the entire board or council was doing the interview process, and there was one seat, 2 people applied, and then they had to deliberate in public for whoever they wanted, and some really awful
Yeah.
things were said.
I know there's a
And
couple
really hurtful.
interviews we did here, it would have been kind of nasty too.
Yeah, if it had been
If
like
they
all
would have
open.
heard,
Yeah.
right, what we were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I have to offer. I mean, that
And having
that
two-
is stuck with me. It's
And
been
having
hard.
2 trustees takes it out of that realm completely.
Well,
Right.
keep in mind that the decision will have to be made at a formal meeting.
Right.
I mean, so it doesn't fully take it out of that realm.
No.
This would just be
Right.
that the interview committee or whatever it is.
That's where they're
purely
gonna bring back,
recommends.
make their
Yeah.
suggestions, and we do the final vote.
Purely recommend, yeah.
but you don't get to ask
That
and
does
questions.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
You don't get to get feedback from the
Right.
person that you're interviewing. You don't get to ask
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
you
to-
have.
No
really
way is gonna be perfect.
Yeah, but
pertinent
to
No, it's
that,
information.
to that
But
point,
what's the
our,
closest we can get?
well, and to that point, our interview questions are already lined out, right?
But we always ask additional questions at the end.
Well,
Very rarely we add
Very
one to
rarely,
the end,
we
like,
technically
very rarely.
shouldn't.
And again, that same question has to then be asked for all the applicants, right?
That's why trustee Gator was always adamant on that, try to stick to the script.
Is that required though, or is that
It
just was his,
Really should.
it should, okay.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah, because otherwise you could be giving somebody an upper hand by giving them a question that makes them look like a shining star.
Yeah. It's, a lot of, interviews are as much about personality as they are about other content, and that's why a lot of those chairs, when they're trying to figure out a good fit for their board, by interest and personality, I mean, it limits it, so yeah, I just want to bring up that concern. If it has to be that way, it has to be that way, but I just want to make sure that we're giving them space in within the realm of what we're allowing them to do, right? if we're saying you can only ask these questions, you can only do this, to actually have space to like feel it out, you know, and to interact with that person. And that can't happen if there's 9 people
It really doesn't.
at the table, yeah.
Yeah, I
So what
loved
if
our
we-
interview process.
Yeah, I don't enjoy it. I interview a lot, and we don't interview like this at work, because I want to know the person.
But then if you have to ask the exact same questions, how do you get to know them?
When I'm at work, I get to know them because it's more intimate, I have more time, it's not just a task where everybody asks one question. You get somebody, they're just more relaxed. When they're more relaxed, you tend to just see who they are naturally. Through how they answer, their tone, how they sit in their chair.
It's a lot different, I think, in the private sector
Oh, yeah.
and the public sector
Oh,
here. You know, we definitely got our little guidelines and rules
Yeah.
and regulations we have to go
And I
by.
remember, I mean, because when I was a firefighter, every interview was a panel interview where you would sit at like a chair 15 feet away from a table of all the battalion chiefs and the chief, and they would just grill you. And those were intimidating.
Mhm.
But, so I know, I mean, so we were kind of talking about, I mean, collectively outside of Trustee Cannon and Moyer, 2 people, what would it look like if it was 2 rotating? So it wasn't the same 2 every time?
I think it's
You're
important that one
pitching
of us
option
the
3.
liaison.
Well, yeah, yes, the liaison, and then, just,
And then.
we designate, like, we just go down the row for each interview? Like, what is it, I mean, that process?
I think, you know, when you start bringing in what the clerk has to do and public meeting aspect of it, I think that's probably gonna be the best way. I'd love to see it, have it open to everybody, but that just puts so many obstacles, I think, in the way.
Yeah, it's compounding on the complexity of the interview,
Mm-hmm.
just on stuff you don't see, right? The unseen loss of productivity.
Well, it's like the example that I gave, right? If for the one gentleman that got to sit in on everybody else's interview because it's a public meeting, is that there?
Right, now that would be kind of
That's intimidating.
intimidating,
It's transparent.
right?
They
Sure, but
represent the
sure,
community.
fair, right,
Like,
the rest
these
of them.
people are going to be making recommendations
is.
on how your money is spent.
Yeah.
These people are going to be interacting with the community, representing the community. That's transparency to me. I don't know. I'm not gonna, I think that, in my personal opinion, interviews should be public. People should be able to give feedback, like, this is how we removed it, mistrust, distrust in government, is looking at an idea of everything is open, because these people will be spending your taxpayer dollars. They make recommendations on how your money is spent. It should be open. Is there not rules and regulations around how this kind of stuff goes?
That's the open meetings law. I mean, and so
Okay.
it has to be a certain.
So we wanna
But
block,
that's not to say we can't be open.
Got
It's
it.
just to say that the Colorado open meeting law applies to certain.
got it. So we wanna block, like, to not have to have an open meeting and have full transparency.
No, it's not about transparency or
that's
blocking that, it's
the-
about efficiency of running the government and not wasting the taxpayers' dollars by wasting the town clerk's time.
But if she's going and scheduling and then sending out
Not
an,
doing as much if it's a smaller interview, so her time is better spent not wasting the taxpayers' dollars.
she says sending out an invite to whom is coming, correct?
Yeah, but she doesn't have to do all the open meeting stuff.
What, it's posting it on the website, right?
Ms. Hannah, can you expand upon how you go about the open meetings?
Sure, so there's going to be a different time frame, and if I have to schedule more people's times, that's going to limit the time that the applicant will be available. I would like to say, however, whatever the board decides to do, I'm happy to do. It's just a matter of time, and your decision is whatever we're happy to do.
So we can't control how many people apply, correct? So you're still gonna have that work spanning out for when you go and enter an open meeting, into the computer, because we posted on the website.
Mhm.
Is it change when you have one board member or 3 board members?
If there will be 3 or more of you, or
You
there
have
are
to
the
post it.
potential of 3 or more of you, then I will post it.
Got it.
Yes.
And about
If
how
there-
long does it take you to post on the website? If
I'm
you're,
required to post more than 24 hours in advance.
got it, but when you do post it,
Oh,
how much
that
time is
doesn't take
involved?
much time, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the time of getting everybody scheduled to know the meeting to where she can post it and scheduling everybody accordingly to that date. And having to redate it, change the appointments because somebody can't make it, the applicant missed it. So then you have to repost again in advance and all of that. So it's the coordination to be able to publicly post it.
Okay, so when you go in and you schedule all these people, you call them beforehand, you get everybody's appointment scheduled relatively on the same day with 15-20 minute interview processes, is how Ethan did it.
Sure.
So he would have to still coordinate the interview times with all of the people. And then 24 hours before, because you verify those interview processes and people and their time periods. And then 24 hours before you post it to the website.
It would not get correct. Very simplistically noted,
Yeah.
yes.
But so send out an email to all the trustees, have to wait for a response from every trustee, check multiple emails to see when the trustee responds to whether they can attend it or not. Then reach out to the applicant, see if the applicant can attend at that time. The applicant says that time doesn't work for me, then you have to reach back out to the trustees and say, hey, we gotta look at a different time. So then all that time is wasted.
That's not how it worked, though.
That's
We
how
got
it
an,
for Ethan.
no, didn't we got
He
an
was-
RSVP button?
He was always stressed out and because it was hard to coordinate.
We just got an RSVP button. We clicked if we were attending or not attending in an email. That's, it was literally a calendar event that said, please RSVP if you can attend.
In my personal discussions with Ethan, it was a lot of work and it's very stressful.
Oh, I'm sure coordinating like all of the applicant side of everything, but you're gonna have that no matter what. Cause she's gonna have to schedule with applicants in.
Not as constrained when you have to do it with 7 other people.
You don't
Trustee,
have to do it with 7.
We can,
Question, if, we just had the two people from the board here, how would you get back the answers to us? Are you gonna have somebody conscribing the answers on each one and then relating it back to us?
they would
So
just,
we can make an educated decision on how
They
we
would
would
just-
vote.
they would just give us their appointment
That,
So you'd have no feedback.
or
into it.
recommendation for appointment, sorry.
okay. Okay. Just gotta know that.
I think, I don't know, this obviously isn't a liquor license, but I mean, prior to any interview, they would all be qualified. There wouldn't be anybody that was not qualified, right? I think I would love it if we would take this conversation away from staff tasks and responsibilities rather than just let us talk about like the experience or anything, but my top options, after the discussion and what I'm hearing is 3. I could go for 4, but based on what I've heard from other people, it is responsible to have some oversight. So I would recommend 3. That's what I was looking at. Actually, 2 is fine with me too. So 2, 3, 4, but I know, it sounds like we want a board member to participate, so 2 or 3. I think gives us probably the better experience and the more encouraging experience from my perspective and the feedback I've gotten.
Member Tom?
I think I like option 3 with the caveat that I mentioned earlier, which is that all of the board members get all of the applications before interviews are completed.
Does that make a difference though? What does getting
It might.
But then if you offer your opinion, that's making a decision, correct? On yes or no, and can we make those decisions outside of our
You wouldn't be
meetings?
offering, no, I think you'd just be getting the information. Would you be offering an opinion on that?
Well,
Outside of
certainly,
the board meeting?
certainly when it comes to the appointment, you have the option to vote yes or no.
So in the board meeting,
If I have an application and I know that, let's say X applicant is known to be a bad apple, but that is the recommendation that's brought before the board, my answer to that's gonna be no.
so you would bring it up in deliberation at the board meeting.
I don't know that I necessarily have to explain my reasoning, that would be my vote, right?
Okay.
But sure, and that's afforded to anybody that's on this board, of course.
But is that not more intimidating process to go through, is to go through an interview and then have members who should have interviewed you so they could expand on why they want this position? That's, I think, kind of the reason why, honestly, why having that open opportunity for 7 to attend and whomever attend does, is because then it grants you that opportunity to interview before that process, so you can give your feedback, so it doesn't end up being that split vote, because you and I think alike on a lot of items. So that's why I'm saying, if you have that interview process beforehand and that feedback is there, then they're not getting voted down in a public meeting. And I don't know if that risks more embarrassment, discourages people from applying, because who knows, very well, someone might vote with you.
Well, yeah, there's always like the what is, could be's, right? But what are the facts? Facts are people have said they're intimidated of the interview process. We know that. We know the process is a public meeting currently, and I don't care either way whether it's public or not. But I think it's more efficient if we have 2 trustees.
And frankly, none of that really changes much from the current process, right? Just because we have an appointment set on the consent agenda, if I was to pull that item off the consent agenda because I know X person, again, say X person is in my opinion, to be a bad apple, I am still going to vote no on that in a public meeting. So I don't think that changes.
And then that answers to the residents where they said, well, why did you put this person on your board? You're like, well, I didn't, because you voted no.
I'm assuming you're leaning towards one. Trustee Vance.
Yeah, it'd be 1, yeah, probably 1.
That's the
Yeah,
one that
maybe
you are.
Yeah, with the understanding that we do it kind of like how we did with Ethan, where he would generally send out, this is the date and times he has scheduled people. If you're available, please click RSVP. There were some people that clicked no. I mean, you click no, there's some I've clicked no on. Then it grants the opportunity where everyone, all of us as board, can give our feedback. We've had really good constructive talks when we have met in those interviews. So, and then it gives us that opportunity. Hannah doesn't have to schedule around us. She schedules everything with what works for residents, because we're always what works for residents more than what works for us. We will move our schedule around. But that way she simply goes in, says, this is the date and times of the interviews. If you're available, please RSVP. If you're not, you're not.
Yeah.
It was a super simple process. I mean, Brian, I think you attended almost all of them.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things where I think there was maybe 1 or 2 that I didn't, but I loved the engagement in those interviews. So I liked the one with the
Well, how about,
understanding.
what if it was this? You and a liaison? Would that solve your concern?
But no, because
Okay.
I love
Okay.
having other people's feedback as well.
Okay.
This is where, if we're supposed to be working like a group and acting like a group,
Yeah.
we probably should be appointing members to boards and commissions as many as we can gather, group. That's us working together, not 2 working independently. So if we're.
Well, they're working independently as a group.
On behalf of.
On behalf
But
of
we're
the
not
board.
though, because it might not represent all of us. When we all have an opportunity, we've declined that opportunity. So it's not that we didn't have the opportunity, it's that we chose not to. Where you're like, okay, I'm assigning 2 people. Then it removes the ability for someone who's super interested to see these interviews. It removes the possibility of someone being able to, or us as a group, making these decisions. So, and if we're supposed to be acting united, being united, but we're dividing, then that's kind of my thing.
I don't see it as dividing.
Yeah,
Trustee
is
Weekend?
the open meeting, is it gonna be recorded? Never has been recorded before, right? It just,
Well, it was.
just has to be,
It just,
It
it,
not
used to
all the
be.
time,
yeah, it hasn't been since
Not-
we've been doing them.
not since
No,
we've
not
been
since we've been doing it,
No.
no.
So if we voted on number one, then it would have to be recorded each time?
No.
It has to be open to the public.
Just
That's
open to
their-
the public.
It does not mean.
I
it
have
has to
no
be
problem with
recorded or
either
videotaped.
one or two on that.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
if,
Is that
if
enough
the
direction?
Yikes.
Clear as mud.
clear as mud, yeah.
Clear as mud. I hear there's talk between option one and option two that were included in the packet. I don't know if there is a majority. It's something, if you would like, I don't know how you want to memorialize this, if it's a resolution or something like that. Or if you just want to, talk about it in a regular meeting and
Bring it back.
I'd like to talk about it. It seemed like, trustee, please correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like you were looking at option 3.
Yeah.
I would also be
He said one.
looking at
he
option.
said one or two.
Yeah.
One or two.
Yeah, put in
Two
my
is
notes.
just one person from our board, Dave. You've been saying two this whole time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So 1 or 3.
One or
One
three.
or three, okay.
Yeah, I say we bring those two options back and then listen to the public if they have any feedback on their
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
And then maybe we could do it as a resolution at that time.
So 1, 2, and 3, or just one
One
and
and
three?
three.
One and
One
three.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we can throw that on an agenda somehow.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if we can, and I'll figure
Well,
that
it
out.
could
on to
either
that one.
stay the same
Yeah.
or change.
Yeah,
Could it be that?
Okay.
That way Lowry and
Um,
Ed could
yeah, I don't know if I'm
participate.
gonna tie
I'd
into,
incorporate it to mine.
yeah.
The next portion of this is gonna be the current condition of the finance committee and what we wanna do
Yeah.
there. I'll start with, trustee Reed.
Are we looking at dissolving it?
That is an option. There's currently only 3 members. They don't have a quorum. They just look at stuff and they can't even vote on it.
Okay. Have we had it open for interviews here lately, or just, have we, what's been the process?
Here. I'm looking. I think we put this in the.
Yeah.
packet.
It is currently still posted on the website as accepting applications. We have, excuse me, we have posted on social media during the normal recruitment time, into the early fall and included information on it at the budget bonanza.
Okay.
There has not been, to my knowledge, and I did check with our marketing social media.
Question.
Jerry, yes.
Okay, you now have been on both sides. Can you give us kind of a good feedback on what you thought with the finance committee? In your situation right there, how valuable it would be to you? Is it a deterrent? Is it a good thing? Give us your insight.
Was it productive would be my
Right.
question. And obviously, you're gonna have to take off your staff hat on this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you've seen it from both sides. You can give us a better perspective than what we've seen.
Is it a fair perspective though? Cause I've gotten feedback on this as well.
Well, we don't
Let's-
know.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
let them talk.
I, as a committee member, I thought it was very interesting to learn about the town's finances, to provide input, provide feedback. The previous finance director, prior
That's what I
to,
was curious about.
yeah, prior to Mr. Rhodes, I'm not sure what they did with that information. I have tried to use this, in my role, I've tried to use the finance committee as a sounding board, but it's become less and less, the committee
Because
members
it's
have become
small.
less and less engaged.
Right.
So I think there was initially the intent of value of transparency when there was inconsistent reporting coming from the finance department. We have standardized that reporting. It is consistently disclosed in the Board of Trustees packet, or at least an update if I'm not able to, for whatever reason, such as staff turnover or whatnot. It then became less about transparency, and it seemed for a time period to be about spending time worrying about small transaction dollar amounts. And is that really going to drive big financial impact for the community?
Okay.
So
And so-
I do think it takes a lot of staff time. And we're reporting the same information to the board.
And trustee Moyer just hopped on the meeting, just
Oh.
FYI.
Hey.
Okay, I'd like to hear some of the other input.
So that's kind of where my questioning was going, from some of the people who had quit the finance committee. I had them directly reach out to me and state that there would be months where you guys would receive no financial reports whatsoever, so it felt like them being there was mute. So I think that I feel everything was stacked against the finance committee to start when it came to the rules, responsibilities that you guys had initially set out. I feel that the situation may be a little different now that, right, so I feel that now all of those roles and responsibilities that you guys initially had set out in your, actually are important now, where before they could not do anything with them. There was nothing, there's no action that you guys could do or anything you could take. I love having the community committees specifically because of the education process behind it. Residents, anytime someone comes and complains to me about finances, I always look at them, I say, you know, there is a seat available on the finance committee. It is an open-ended out, and I almost don't hear another comment. So, and it's not to silence people, it's to say, if there's a complaint and you would like an answer, we have this opportunity for you to sit and actually be involved in this process. These are why I love these community member-driven boards, is because it not just only educates the people that sit on those boards, it actually allows people to go out and educate other people about these processes, these policies. I think this finance committee would have seen more success had you been sitting in the finance director position when you were. I think it would have still been an uphill battle with how many audits we have not had addressed. But I think right now, when people are feeling discouraged with our town and with government spending in general, having an option where people can get involved bodes well for our community. Having someplace where they can go and learn and see and experience what these numbers look like in real life. I understand it takes staff hours, but these kind of things, it's one of those things I am willing to invest in. And that, and look at how many people you connected to in the community from being on that board. These boards are community connectors and next step up processes for people. I would say I'd like to see, and maybe this is something, I know that there are boards that operate with 4 or 7, and I don't know if Dan can assist with this one, where 4 is the members and then so many equals a quorum of that 4. I don't know if that would be a great option of having 4 instead of 7 and seeing how it goes for a year's period of time. And if again, we're visiting the same situation this next year where it's just like, there's no interest or, lack of attention and whatnot, then I'd say if we can discuss it. I like having the option open for these boards. It's community engagement, and right now we need community engagement. We're providing opportunity, I think, is the biggest thing.
To answer that quick, can I answer a question real quick?
Oh,
Just on-
yeah.
just- Simply, our ordinance says 7, and
Okay.
it says a quorum is 4, and so that's in our ordinance. The town could make this advisory committee a committee of 3 if they
Okay.
wanted. That number, just need to set a number. We need to change it by ordinance, but
Got it. It's alterable.
it could be,
Okay.
it could be 100 if you want, or
Okay.
it could be 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with her on that. Just like having a water board, having the community involvement in it and input and that type of stuff. Just with the finance committee too, the transparency.
I mean,
think
look
it's
what we got
extremely
out of it.
Right, it's extremely.
Seriously,
Yeah, I know.
I
It
know
isn't that we don't
here.
trust what you're
No.
doing or anything else, but it's just good to have the people in there backing you. And that way, like you were saying, you know, if people come in and say, what the hell's Wellington doing? Say, not only do we have him or Patty or all that, we had this, community, the citizens out there working with it too. And again, it just, I think it, like you're saying, the transparency and just saying, hey, we ain't afraid to have you in here if you wanna be on the committee either.
Well, and we got Nick off of it.
Right.
Like-
but-
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna read, trustee Cannon's, finance committee. Wellington went through a couple rough years with the finance director turnover. We missed 3 audits, water costs to residents climbed through the roof, and our water funds were being supported through the general fund, putting the general fund at risk. This called into question the integrity of trustees and staff, so I can see why the finance committee was formed. That need no longer exists, so I recommend terminating the finance committee for the following reasons. First, once Patty hired, the board appointed Nick David as town finance director and treasurer. Financial reports to the town have been spot on. Nick is proving to be a highly competent and capable finance director. He has also earned the trust of staff, trustees, and the public due to this attention to detail and stellar performance managing and reporting town financials. I believe we have greater transparency under Mr. David. And that's, I guess it stopped there. And then secondly, the finance committee only has 3 members, so they've been operating since April without a quorum. Each month, the finance committee looks at the agenda and supporting documents provided by Mr. David, along with the minutes from April 2024 that cannot be approved. Nick does a great job preparing these documents, which are the same documents he provides monthly to the board of trustees. Last August, I asked the finance committee chairman, although technically he isn't the chairman since we can't take a vote, if he thought the finance committee was needed. He said yes, but I believe he no longer feels that way. In essence, we are a small meeting of 3 residents, a trustee and Mr. David, who meet once a month to review financial documents that are virtually error-free. So that is his, and then, I don't need to read trustee Martin, but I'll call on her right now.
Trustee Moyer, can you, hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hola from Brazil. I would like to say I have watched the finance committee for as long as it's been in existence, and I do think that there was a time and a place for it. And that was when there was an extreme desire for micromanagement of our staff. And I don't believe that we're there anymore. And so if it were up to me, I would look at the lack of involvement from our community. There is no clear definition to the mission or purpose of the committee other than to review financials that we have already, as trustee Cannon stated, deemed acceptable and clear and concise and accurate, and therefore I would dissolve it, period.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I think between what trustee Cannon and trustee Moyer have said is pretty much exactly where I like, right? So yeah, obviously there's been no quorum since June. And I guess maybe quite frankly, I'm not entirely clear what the goal of the finance committee is, right? If the finance committee is to provide oversight and or policy direction, that's one thing. But if the finance committee is to provide budget suggestions or what they think about, I think that's far over what their role is, right? It is the board's purview to approve the agenda or approve the budget based off what staff has given us as far as what they need in order to do their jobs, right? So again, so I suppose if the suggestion is that they are here to give us budget decisions, I think that's ridiculous, right? If they want to do policy decisions and or have policy input, I think that's much more the role that they should be playing. So but to some of the points that I've made here, obviously, we're getting very much back on track, right? Audits are gonna be done here pretty quickly here for 2022, rolling right into 2023. I think Mr. Redavid is highly qualified, and specifically to the finance committee, and I don't want to single anybody out or anything like that, but there have been, in the past, what I would call certain malicious things come out of that board that I've not seen come from any other commission or board that we have in town, specifically pertaining to events that have long been in the past that continue to get drug up in social media and this and that, right, causing further confusion and discontent among residents, right? These are things that have happened years and years and years and years ago. So if I think it needs to go, I think it needs to go.
Good.
I love roundtables, and I love, resident committees. I think they are the most pure way of getting feedback from residents. I would say that the utility rate roundtable, I don't know how that could have been any more successful. Amazing. The results that we got from that, the engagement, the knowledge that those folks have, and then they disperse within the community and had the understanding and were advocates, I think, for the plan and what we did, even though it was still, it's always continuously a hard situation, but I think that was wonderful. I think the finance committee has had some amazing results as well, including kind of some requirements for reporting and suggestions and just that accountability piece. And I think that is a fantastic outcome of the finance committee. I mean, we adopted utility rates and we implemented the requests from the roundtable for utility rates. We've implemented the suggestions and requests from finance committee. I think that is a success. What I have heard tonight alone is that there's several new committees have been suggested that are applicable to current concerns and questions. That being economic vitality as a collaboration group, that being a water board for oversights for water. And as Lowry mentioned, there's a time and place and function, right? And if the goal of these groups is to utilize our residents and to educate them in order to get a result and help with that transparency, that's great. But when the residents aren't interested and aren't participating, that is the biggest indication that it has served its purpose. And I think it's been a great success. I think there's been some, I think there's opportunities in the future for other groups that people are currently passionate about and that currently are going to dedicate their time for and are going to be also great successes of resident roundtables. I think in the future, as we approach these, we have, very specific advisory groups already. I think as we approach these topics in the future, that we do introduce them initially as a roundtable with a beginning and end date. And then if at that approaching the end date, if there is overwhelming support of the members that will participate in it to create a group that's ongoing, to maybe continue doing that. But that way we can have like a more focus, like this is at hand right now. This is what everybody is really concerned about. Let's tackle it and let's get an outcome. And then what's next? Like those kind of things. I think I might recommend that. I applaud the finance committee. I applaud all the roundtables that we've had for a serious time commitment and all the time that's gone to it from a staff perspective of giving these folks great resources and education. And I think we say a job well done, and then we look for the next opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the finance committee, when it was formed, was definitely necessary due to just the town needing that transparency and needing that opportunity. And it did a lot of good, just like Rebecca said. I also really enjoyed your thought on starting with roundtables, starting end dates, and if there's still a lot of drive, then that's where we make a decision. I think that's very wise.
Yeah.
with the current lack of involvement and enthusiasm within the committee, I don't know as though it's something that we should hold on to. I think that, maybe it has served its purpose. And it doesn't mean that we couldn't bring it back if something, says that if all of a sudden there's all this frenzy, but with current finances and where we're at and where we're at in our audit processes, I mean, you do a killer job. Like, I wish I just had a whole sheet of gold stars that I could just hand to you. So, I mean, with that lack of engagement,
Distracted.
I think it's served its purpose at this point, and it probably is time to go away with it, and I think it's another wonderful opportunity to use that time and resources to go after the things like a water board or something along those lines, since that's one of our biggest things coming up. So, that's where I stand on it.
I mean, that water group board exists. I was talking about it like at the round table. That's exactly what you guys are doing right now. So.
Yeah,
I think it needed to be something formal
yeah.
and getting probably a little bit more community participation in there too.
But they don't want the community participation. They want it in different areas. I don't know. I think this is, at the end of it, I think this is the kind of the final thing that I think this is the last thing of John Gator's you have to wipe off of everything that he's done, set, established.
It's interesting you take it personal like that.
No, I think that it's kind of one of those things that when you take it and you look at it, it's going down like a checklist of things, and everything that supports transparency involving residents, except specific residents, is going away.
Interesting, that's an interesting view.
Yeah, so I mean, any which way you look at it,
But I
I
think the
think
finance
it's.
committee.
Can I raise my hand to that?
Is there 3 people?
Is that trustee Moyer?
That is trustee Moyer.
I think the mayor is calling on you, trustee Moyer.
Okay, thank you. I feel like it's really unfortunate, trustee Teets, that you feel that way. I never would have considered it a checklist or any kind of number on a checklist or box on a checklist. I think it's what makes the most sense for our community. And if the reality is that this was a pet project of his, also the reality is he's not in office anymore and others are. It's not a personal attack on anything that he tried to achieve. It's something that clearly the community has showed they're not interested in participating in. And so we as a board have to reevaluate whether or not we're willing to put effort into it. And at this point, it sounds like we're not. I would really hate for this to become some type of I would hate for this to become a topic that divides our community. And to me, that's what it sounds like is starting to happen. And so I would just caution us to think about the logical reasoning behind the decisions that are being made or the thoughts that are being shared, and not any kind of personal or political views or attacks.
I just don't want to discredit the 3 people that still show up to that meeting.
No one's discrediting them, I don't think. We're very appreciative of every single volunteer that shows up to any of our boards or commissions. We could not function without them. That's an unquestionable fact. However, it doesn't make sense for this particular committee, like it is not where our time needs to be allocated at this point. We have a very competent finance director who is building their staff, and we're at a point right now where there is absolutely no need to micromanage this department. It is not a personal attack on any one past trustee or any person who is serving currently. It is simply a matter of where can we allocate our time best? And this is not it. This is not the best place. That's my opinion.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Nick, when you've had meetings, have all 3 shown up, or what's like been the attendance?
excuse me, we've had three, I believe, at all meetings except for November and December. November, we it was supposed to be the budget review, and two individuals canceled
That's
day
right.
of or right before the meeting. So that meeting ended up just being canceled. I did request any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, be sent in by email and did not receive any. And then the committee was also invited to the work session in December that the board held regarding the audit, and no one attended that, and I did not hear from any committee.
Have you heard anything from them since
I have
then?
not, no.
So they're kind of dissolving themselves.
Has anything been scheduled though?
We do have a meeting scheduled. Our regularly scheduled meeting is Monday.
Okay,
Would have been yesterday, except for the holiday, so it was pushed a week.
I think we canceled all meetings through December, right? Was that kind of,
No, they were invited to the December board meeting.
got it, but it wasn't like your meeting? for
No, it
finance
was the next,
committee.
it would
Okay.
have been the next, it was one day after the regularly scheduled meeting,
Got
I
it.
believe.
I'm fine with whatever. I think that pretty much everyone's already said what they're doing.
I think that we do a super amazing job with Budget Bonanza. And that is open to such a large scale group of people. So if we're thinking about 3 people coming over the course of monthly versus how many people come and learn about the budget during the Budget Bonanza. The question of whether or not we're being transparent and trying to educate people, man, that is an amazing event where there's so much information and the opportunity to talk to individual department heads. And to see our facilities and see all kinds of things. It's such a great education opportunity. So we still have that, and that's been so established, and it's a really cool program. So that's there. And then, of course, all of our reports are always in meetings, always open to public comment. So by no means are we silencing anyone. And like I said, if the need comes up, we maybe consider doing a roundtable for a specific, very focused topic with a goal in mind of an output or a specific suggestion on the question. I think they've done a really great job.
Yeah, I would love to have the committee continue or at least go for another year, but if they're not participating
Yeah.
and you can't force them to come.
Yeah.
So, like I say, it's kind of showing their hand at that point, so.
And then
Good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, we gave the town the opportunity to do it, and we can always, like you say, put it
Yeah.
back.
And it served a good purpose for
Yeah.
a long time. I think that it's just, it's reached a point where it's just, nobody really sees the need because you report so well.
we've got a lot of stuff coming up that we need time for. I also want to note that John and I attended a session at CML regarding roundtables, and that's what we brought back together as a combined item between he and I to implement roundtables. So, I take no offense to this being shut down, but I see more opportunity for new topics in the future. And so this is just as much my item as it was this John's. So. And I don't see it dying. I see it as using this opportunity for new things in the future. So.
What would you suggest in place of it? You said couple things.
The economic vitality. The only reason I say it specifically is the Main Streets program is creating a committee called Economic Vitality. They grassroots already created a group independent of us and inviting the town to participate in that C3 group. I mean, when you're talking about when residents care, if they make the group and they start
Yeah.
organizing, that's what they care about.
Right, because that was not our meeting.
Yeah, they
We got
did that.
invited.
The town was a guest to that meeting,
Yes.
which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
So what I see is an amazing collaboration happening grassroots right there, that if we find a need to utilize those people in a capacity that they're already excited about, and we give them a task or to help us to create policy, I mean, that's where the magic is, right? Those are the people who want to do it. They're doing it without us. So also, we could just let them be free and do their thing too. They seem to be doing that just fine too. So they're doing some good stuff.
I like it being at the table.
Huh?
I like it being at the table. The little bit of control freak of me, I like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
and Have our,
Just know.
have our fingers in there just a little bit.
And it is a sign of trust though, too, that they're doing their own
Mhm.
thing, but they want you to be there.
Mhm.
So it's not like, we're mad at you because you can't do this. So we need to have a committee to do it, right? That's one view of it. But they're like, hey, let's do this great thing for our town. And we trust the town, so we want them to participate. Please come sit at the table.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. That is community organizing. That is beautiful. So I love that. So if we can support that in the future, if there's a need for that, or we can help them by doing something formal, I'm all in. But water, Dave, it's water, right? It's
Mhm.
absolutely water.
Right.
After we find these findings and have some ideas of what we need to do, we're gonna need some input, we're gonna need
And we got some
engagement.
very educated people
Yeah.
here in
Yes,
this town too.
And they
for
want
that.
to help, right?
Right.
So, and I mean, that's
And that
our number
takes
one
some of the
emergency right
burden
now.
off of us having the
Mhm.
community input
Yeah.
like that.
But
Yeah.
you won't get a choice if we choose only 2 people to appoint.
No, this is gonna
I'm
be.
sorry,
on-
I gotta go. When I'm angry, I cry and I just don't wanna do this right now. I have nothing productive.
I think when we create a new board, there's some discussion about, who participates in establishing that. I think it's a little different than just putting in your, vacant, filling vacancies and things like
Mhm.
that. Bob and I've talked about a water and sewer board for several years. He really wanted to wait until the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plants
Mhm.
were done. So that's
Yeah.
happened. So
Now
that's
it's
on,
time.
that's on a list. So most definitely something we need to get done. I think they can be very supportive about the water source development piece, water rates, impact fees. I mean, a lot of different pieces that
Yeah.
a water board can be helpful for the board of trustees in helping guide decisions.
Cool.
Mhm.
If we do start anything with a roundtable, I think that does need to be a standard board though, but if we do start with anything with the roundtable too, we could take out like the requirements of our advisory, like, we could just, these are the people in it. It starts on this day, it ends on this day. There's no reappointments, there's no
Mhm.
interviews, there's no filling spaces, like, this is the group that's doing this project. And I think that might take some of the stress and administrative management off of it a little bit too.
Mhm.
And if we go in with a question of, here is our question, here's all the resources to answer it. What is the answer? What are we recommending? I think we get out of the role of political, we get out of the, spaces of maybe different things, because like we have a question and answer that we're trying to receive. It's not like an open forum for other things to come into the mix, like we're here for a reason, this is what we're doing. So I think that will be more
Hyper-focused.
effective, yeah.
Yeah,
too.
and when we did the roundtables, you all appointed your person,
Yeah, we all,
and that was super cool. Each
Mhm.
trustee appointed a person.
yeah,
And then we took somebody from each of the, like the chair or whatever, from each of the advisory boards.
yeah,
So I mean, however,
it's like a
We
steering
do.
committee kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah, very much. I mean, but that was so we didn't have to have a formal appointment process.
Yeah.
These were people that were already appointed by you or you chose on your own.
Yeah,
Any more input?
the water. Water.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So we'll
definitely gotta
do
get that
ordinance.
going.
Okay. The dissolve, I don't know if it'll be ready for this next meeting. It might be another meeting. Okay,
First in February.
okay. Sounds like a
I
plan.
think it could be ready with them.
Okay,
I mean, it's repeal.
yeah,
It's pretty simple.
That wraps it up.
that wraps it up. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good meeting.